Ok, buonasera a tutti, benvenuti anche a questa sessione pomeridiana di questo secondo giorno di convegno che celebra i 100 anni a venire dell'Accademia Chigiana, non soltanto quelli passati. Vi annuncio semplicemente che questa tavola rotonda si svolgerà completamente in inglese per dare la possibilità ai nostri ospiti che parlano più lingue però di unirsi tutti quanti in inglese e non dover usare le cuffie per la traduzione simultanea. Però avete tutti a disposizione le cuffie per la traduzione simultanea, quindi se volete le andate a prendere a fondo sala, come è successo già stamattina, quando insomma volete utilizzarle. Lascio la parola a Nicola Sani, ringrazio. Thank you very much all the people who are gathered around this table. Thank you very much, so precious your participation, and so Nicola Sani.
Grazie Stefano, thank you very much Stefano, and good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to welcome here at Fondazione Montepaschi Foundation, which I would like also to thank very much the Fondazione Montepaschi Foundation and the President Carlo Rossi for this kind hospitality. I am really happy to introduce to you our guests of this afternoon for this panel, and I'm really very happy to have the honor to have these so important guests here at Accademia Chigiana for this discussion in the occasion of the 100th anniversary, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Chigiana. As I said many times, it's not a common thing to have such an old lady like Chigiana with such a new perspective in front. So we are entering in the second century of our life, and we are doing it in full activity, with full energy, and with a very important program that we are developing. So we are connecting the high-profile teaching of music, so the specialization and in music. I always say the students are not coming at Chigiana to learn music, but to become protagonists of the musical scene and the musical world. And it happened that we have students and professors that are in common among our organizations, and so it was the idea to join them together. So we have here at this table the most important player and protagonist of this particular kind of area in the music world. So high training, high professional training, and the music production, and music, the realization of new musical projects, joining the energy and the methodologies developed in high learning, transforming this in something that is great show, great cultural show, I mean, and great production, cultural production for everybody, open to everybody, and to give also the opportunities to young talents to become really protagonists of the music scene. This is our goal, but this was also the goal of our founder, Conte Guido Chigi Seracini, when in 1923 he started a way that with the creation of the concert season Micat in Vertice, which is shining on the top in Latin motto of the family Chigi, and creating an incredible history, a kind of incredibly beautiful tale, which is not a fantasy but is a reality, giving to all the young people, young students that wants to become protagonists of the music, the opportunity to realize their dream. So a dream that become reality. And he has created in 1932, so after 9 years after the creation of the concert season, that was the first seed of this way, of this brilliant way. In 1932, he has created an academy, Academy Chigiana, that since the beginning was a summer academy of high specialization with the best musicians here in Siena, Segovia, Paolo Casals, George Enesco, Rubinstein, Horowitz, and many, many, many others, that today is a brilliant, lively, and very pushing academy with 32 courses and many projects and a big festival of 2 months, the Chigiana International Festival and Summer Academy, that transform the energy, as I said before, of the high training in real project of music production. As you know, this academy is entirely producing the festival. So the festival is produced for the 90%. We have really a few guests, but the core of the festival that is lasting 2 months, July and August, and include more than 100 concerts, is produced by the academy. And also is produced by meeting between teachers, professors, and students. We start 1 or 2 years in advance thinking to generate an overall topic that is characterizing the whole festival. The last topic we had in last summer was parola, word, and around parola, around this topic, we have joined in a very free way, in a very large way. The topic is not a cage. It's not a game of word. The topic is not a cage, but is just a suggestion to join many constellations of idea. And we have every year a contemporary composer, a protagonist of the music of our time, at the center of the project, or the cultural project of the festival. So in these years we had as focus of the festival Georgi Kurtag, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, Yannick Xenakis, Steve Reich, Salvatore Scerrino, of course, which is the professor of composition today of the Chigiana Academy. Last year was Luigi Nono, and last summer was Luciano Berio. And there is always a connection in these things. Parola and Berio, as well as last year From Silence with Nono. There are also connections between the overall topic and the composer, which is at the center. So starting from 3 years, we have developed a very important joint venture and collaboration with Mozarteum, University of Mozarteum from Salzburg, dedicated to the Baroque music. So Chigiana, this is an important, I'm telling this because it's something that I would like then to throw as an idea for the Chigiana was started his activity under the sign of Baroque music. So Vivaldi, the music of Vivaldi, was the discovery of Chigiana. Vivaldi was unknown at that time. We are talking about the 30s. And the musicologists, as we had yesterday a very, very interesting paper about these topics, 2 papers about the topics of the rediscovery of the ancient music in the beginning of the life of Chigiana, in the years of Chigiana. And Chigiana was the first to perform the unknown at that time operas by Vivaldi live in the famous weeks from Siena, Settimana Musicale Senese, Siena musical weeks. And so the festival was connected to the musicological studies. But nowadays is very different. We have musicology studies in winter, like this Congress, and during the festival and in our academy, it had no sense to have just one course of harpsichord, for example. Baroque is something that has to be considered in his global integrity. And so we did this very important agreement with Salzburg, Mozarteum, and we had the Department of Ancient Music of Mozarteum that moves here in Siena and is part of the overall Summer Academy. Because it's important to create connections. We cannot do all alone, only alone things. It has no sense. Now we are player in an exchange, in a Europe of exchanges, of co-production, of realization that involves energies from different countries that are looking towards the same direction and looking towards the same horizon. So we are developing with Mozarteum really a very interesting project which involves production. And last summer we did together a huge production of the Dido and Aeneas opera by Purcell, together with a new commissioned opera to a contemporary composer, Henri Fourès from France. And he did a project, a concept, together with the dramaturgin Elisabeth Gutjahr, that is at my right here, which is also Rektorin, director of the Mozarteum University, which was connected with the Dido and Aeneas. So a contemporary opera with ancient instruments, involving also electronics, based on the same topic, because Elisa was the name, the ancient Phoenician name of the queen Dido, the unhappy queen Dido. So it was like a frame, a prologue and epilogue to Dido and Aeneas. So such an idea is started from two schools, from two academies that are working together. And we are pushing this direction. And this year, we will involve in our project for a summer Baroque program also the Royal College of Music from London, which is connected to Mrs. Janet Ritterman at my left. So joining energy, producing new idea, producing new project for musical, to advance music. This is something that comes from the activity of institutions working also on high training. So I think that is very meaningful. I think that is something fresh. I think that is something very powerful. I was in my life, before taking this honor, great, immense honor to be artistic director of the Accademia Chigiana, I was a general manager of opera houses, like artistic director in Rome and artistic director and general manager in Bologna Opera House. And I am really aware of what is meaning the possibility to do new production in the opera. And there is a very limited area, and it's something, this is part of a very different world, like something much more standard. I mean, of course, it is possible to force this, this limit, but here, talking about high training and perspective of production, we are much more free. And this freedom is something unique also because the new technique, new instrumental technique, new vision in composition, new vision in Baroque praxis is something that is part of the transmission of the heritage and also transmission of how to think the possibility, the musical performance, how to think to the sound today. And this is a very open area that can produce very interesting projects. So I would like, I have, we have here at this table really the real protagonists of this word, and I am happy to share with them some ideas and to see if it's really possible to think to something that is joining these institutions that are working in this open direction. So we have at this table Dr. Michael Haefliger. Doctor? No doctor. Maestro? Professor? Mr. Mr. Michael Haefliger, that I'm very happy to welcome here at Chigiana. It's the first time at Chigiana, maybe. So we are very proud of it. Is the director of the festival of Lucerne in Switzerland, and is really one of the most important festivals in the world. So at my right, Professor Elisabeth Gutjahr, which is the Rektorin of the Universität Mozarteum in Salzburg, that I mentioned before. At my left, Mrs. Janet Ritterman, Professor, Doctor, Professor, and
Dame, Professor, Doctor.
So, really many things. I mean, very Mrs. to resume.
Yes.
Okay, my friend Janet Ritterman, which is the former director of the Royal College of Music in London, but is also one of the most important personality in this world of relationship between training, high training, and music production. And at our left, Mr. Pierre Audi, great friend, one of the most important theater director and opera director of our time, and is a director of another very important festival, which is a European festival, the Festival d'Art Lyrique d'Aix-en-Provence in French, one of the most lively and really exciting place for opera production. We, here in Siena, we had already a cooperation, but he was not yet there, but I'm really happy to have tonight at the concert Bernard Faucroul, which is the player, the organ player of the concert of tonight, which is a great musician. He was the previous director of Aix-en-Provence Festival, so we have this kind of exchange, ideal exchange here at Chigiana. I have to say that I am really happy to have seen the last production of Pierre Audi. I was in Tokyo last week and I could see his marvelous, remarkable production of Simone Boccanegra by Giuseppe Verdi, together with the great visual artist Anish Kapoor, which is now realizing a wonderful exhibition in Florence in Palazzo Strozzi. I hope that you will have the opportunity to see this production. It's a co-production with Helsinki and with Madrid, but I hope that we could show it will be possible to show this marvelous production also in Italy, hopefully. Then I would like to say something about what Mr. Enrico Girardi said this morning. He had he said very interesting things, an excellent speech, and I would like to go back to these things that he said about the opera productions in Italy, but it will come later. Now, so thank you to everybody to be here. I would like to start with Michael Haefliger, this panel, asking, first of all, to explain your activity, to introduce us to your festival, and in particular, which relations take place in your festival, which place take in your festival, the relationship between high training and music production.
Well, thank you very much. It's
I think this one. Funziona questo? Funziona questo microfono? No, questo no, deve parlare in questo, giusto? Ecco. Ah, ok. Però i fili sono corti. Ah, ok, quindi possiamo.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure and a great pride to be here in Siena for the first time. I know Claudio Abbado always spoke very highly about his time in Siena, and I think he and Polini were actually students here, and they remembered very well, and I think that their friendship started also here, and I don't know if Subin Mehta also was here.
Also.
Yeah, I think there was a kind of triumvirate.
And Daniel Barenboim in the same years.
Yeah, so that seems to have been the layer of great careers, very unique careers. And it's a great pleasure to be here and to talk a little bit about the Lucerne Festival. I'm director of the Lucerne Festival since 1999, so 24 years. Next year will be my 25th year, and then I will do one more, and then I will go to Mars probably or somewhere else with Elon Musk to try to find out how to run a music festival on Mars. But anyway, when I started the Lucerne Festival, of course, it was already very unique. It was very well known. We had, when I began, the new hall built by Jean Nouvel was just opened, and I felt like, wow, how could I be ever so lucky to be starting with this new hall and in a great concert hall with acoustic by Russell Johnson at the beauty of the lake of Lucerne, looking at the mountains in back and then beautiful old city, and it was just not to be believed. But I decided that I would try to look at the lake as little as possible. That we would not move our offices into the beautiful concert hall, but rather stay in more moderate offices near the station. And I realized that I had to do a lot of work. So next to engaging the Berlin Philharmonic and the Vienna Philharmonic, we grew their residencies into more concert series. We developed new partnerships on the sponsorship side. You should know that the Lucerne Festival is 95% self-financed. We get no money from the government. Whatever we get, we pay back in ticket tax, because Lucerne still has ticket tax. And so whatever we do, we have to do under those kind of conditions, which are very entrepreneurial. And 50%, I would like to say, of my work is, of course, dedicated to the fundraising. What we try to do and what the vision is really to move from the artistic project into also the dimension of the marketing, of the communication, of the fundraising, and not to go and sell a festival to somebody, but to sell a content. And to try to convince also our partners, which are big Swiss companies, among others, and that they have to invest into the future of culture, into the future also of young talents. We have particularly succeeded together with Roche to develop the Roche Commissions, big contemporary awards to well-known composers, but also with the Roche Young Commissions to younger composers, which change every year. And I must say, one of the things I'm most proud about is the creation of our academy, which did not exist before. Mm-hmm. It was actually...
So it started in '99 at the academy,
yes,
with you. Uh-huh.
When I started, it was clear I had to meet Abbado. I had to meet the Berlin Philharmonic. I went to... my second date was with the Vienna Philharmonic, and then I had always such an adoration for Pierre Boulez. Yeah. I always had such an adoration for Pierre Boulez that I think the first or second call was to Pierre Boulez, and his secretary said, well, he doesn't have time, and but I said he has to have time, and we developed. Later, in 2003, we started with the Lucerne Festival Academy, and together with Claudia Bauder, we created the Lucerne Festival Orchestra. These were two gigantic new inventions by the festival, two projects which had to be completely financed. There was no money there for them. And but we finally convinced private and of course also corporate corporations to join us in this. And when I began, somebody came to me and said, well, Mr. Haefliger, you know, on Friday we have a meeting about the master courses. And I said, what master courses? And he said, well, you know, Mr. Schiff comes, and it was used to be Mr. Mainardi, and it used to be Polini came, and really great artists, but it somehow had deteriorated into no visibility anymore. I mean, the courses were there, and I liked them, but I felt there is no identity. And then I talked to the director of the conservatory at the time, and we had meeting after meeting with his assistant, who first was very resistant to changing her job profile. But I said, we have to invent something new. This cannot be, this is not the model for the future. So we came to the idea of an academy for young musicians from all over the world. And we decided that there are many projects for historical expertise, interpretation, and that there is a lot going on, but there's nothing going on for contemporary music. And I always had great admiration for contemporary music. At my previous festival in Davos, we did a lot of that. And I learned also how to suffer when you don't sell out a concert, or maybe you only have 3 people, but you also realize the 3 people are fantastic people. And it's not only about the millions, but it's also about the very few. And that contemporary music was music where you don't know where you're going. You might be going to Mars, but maybe you go to the moon, or like Columbus, you want to discover the Western way to India, but you actually discover America. So, and I see it even today. We just had our contemporary festival Ford last weekend, and it's like after each piece, it's like, so what does it mean? Where does it go? Where is contemporary music going? Where is our music that we are creating today? Where is it going? Sorry. What does it mean? And that was the idea behind the creation of the Academy. And I went to Pierre Boulez with that idea, and he said, that's exactly what I wanted to do for the last 50 years. And it was hard work, obviously, but we started in 3. We invited every summer, and still do, over 100 young musicians that undergo a severe selection process, that we fly in from all over the world, including the United States, including all of Europe and Asia. They come together, they have coaches, contemporary coaches that are highly experienced, and they train in the programs, major works of the contemporary 20th, 21st century compositions. And Pierre Boulez was there the first 10 years, and unfortunately he died. And now is Wolfgang Riem the leader. And we have succeeded in establishing a real institution. And the Lucerne Festival has built a strong contemporary vision. We call now everything that goes on in the contemporary music, we call contemporary. It's one of the pillars, is symphony, contemporary, and music for future, where we do for young musicians, debut concerts, and also the communication to young audiences. But the contemporary has become one of the strong pillars of the festival. And aside from being this fantastic presenter of world stars, of world performance on the highest level, we have become an institution with our academy. And the young, we have about 1,200, 300 alumni now that have graduated. I mean, they come 2-3 years, sometimes 4 years, and then they become alumni, and they are now the leaders of our Ford Festival. We have a network that is actually directing this festival, which is a 3-day contemporary festival. And so we have created a new generation and are in the process of creating the next generation of highly skilled performers in contemporary music. And I fully believe that as much as in Baroque music or in Romantic music, the historical context or the real interpretational knowledge of how you interpret Boulez or Schoenberg or Webern, and into the future, how you do electronic music, how you create visions for new music. You have the unique opportunity to work together with the composers. We have to face the fact that in classical music we don't do that. We have, of course, our knowledge of interpretation, and we think further how is Beethoven really performed. We just did Wagner in a more historic style with historic instruments with Kent Nagano. It was fascinating. I couldn't say it's the next vision, but I could say it's an incredibly interesting contribution to the interpretation of Richard Wagner. But so we want to do in 20 years, Pierre Boulez will be rediscovered. He will be reinvented. Young scholars will find out new things in his interpretation, how to play the notation or pli selon pli. And this is the vision. And only this way music can grow. And we have established this wonderful family of young performers that really only want to play this music. And they go out and then spread this vision. So with the idea of education, with the idea of an academy, obviously also in connection with outstanding personalities as Pierre Boulez and Wolfgang Riem, we have created our contemporary vision, and we are contributing tremendously to the contemporary process in music, in classical music, but also in music in general. And we are the ones that perhaps can more and more answer certain questions where experts will look to and where young performers come to. So I'm finished now.
Oh,
It's enough.
great.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haefliger. Thank you very much, Mr. Haefliger. I'm really happy to hear what you said, because I am really discovering, I was sure, but I'm really concretely experiencing how close are our visions. We started in 2015 the Chigiana International Festival and Summer Academy. Before, the festival in Chigiana was Settimana Musicale Senese, was 1 week festival. Now is this new formula of two months, but it's based exactly in the same vision, in the same ground vision that you explained. And we share many things. Pierre Boulez was also teacher professor here at Chigiana, and we have a fantastic tradition of the great composer that are on this line. Luciano Berio was professor, and before, and Franco Donatoni, and Mauricio Kagel was here, and also Yannis Xenakis. So it's really Chigiana has always mirrored this idea of to be witness of the today's language, of musical language of our time, and joining this with the technique of interpretation, knowing Boulez and knowing the music by Pierre Boulez, and also the teaching of professor like nowadays at Chigiana Salvatore Scerrino, means a better knowledge to understand Johann Sebastian Bach, and also to understand the ancient music and the romantic music. This is an important key to understand the present time and the past, and thinking to the future. I think that this meeting with with you, with Lucerne, is very important in the history of the Chigiana, which is changing progressively, but always in the same, how can I say, ground idea, this witnessing of the present. It was the same at the time of Alfredo Casella. Alfredo Casella was the first artistic director of Chigiana, and it was the composer at that time, at his time, that mostly was looking toward the European European composers of his time. And I think that today what Chigiana is doing is really pushing the same direction with professors, new professors that are also in the big names, as Michael Haefliger say, only with great name, with great musicians, not only name, musicians, names as great musicians, you can do something like this, and then you are in the right way. That's why we are working with great figure like Ilya Gringolds, for example, or Tabea Zimmermann, are musicians that are great in the music heritage, in the knowledge of the repertoire, but very much interested in the present time, and in new technique also for instruments. That's why we are talking here with the community of our professor of the same ideas that he said, that Michael Haefliger said. So many experience in common. Maurizio Pollini also was professor at Chigiana, student and professor. Claudio Abbado, Salvatore Accardo. We had, for example, for our 100th anniversary, we have commissioned to Salvatore Sciarrino a new series of 6 capricci for solo violin. This was the first series was commissioned at the Accademia Chigiana to Salvatore Sciarrino almost 50 years ago in 1976, and Salvatore Accardo played this. Ilya Gringolds played the new 6 capricci for solo violin last summer. 6 capricci e un saluto, 6 capricci and a farewell. This continuity in renewing, but this also witness from Salvatore Accardo to Ilya Gringolds. It's an ideal continuity in the same direction, following the same direction. And I think I'm so happy to hear what you said, because I think we are in the right way. We are pushing the same, sorry for my shoulder, and we are pushing the same ideas, and towards what we think it's important as musicians today to do. That's the real role of our institutions, if it has a sense that Chigiana still exists, is this, because we have to go further in the knowledge of the contemporary music, but also contemporary technique. I mean, Beethoven is not so far away, but it has been in the same concept, in the same word of Boulez, of Sciarrino, of the Wolfgang Grimm and Jörg Widmann, and this composer that here are at home. But it is not the same everywhere. That's why I say this is a very important field, because our openness is crucial to allow music to look forward. Now, Elisabeth Gutjahr. Same idea. Thank you. It's not easy to push this direction, but I know that Mozarteum is on the way, the same way. Could you a little bit describe your activity and also the relationship, the role of production in your organization, in your teaching organization.
Yes, thank you, Nicola. First, I want to say I really could underline every word you say about contemporary music and the vision we have to bring together education and creation via future. So, in the time of Mozart, mobility inside Europe was quite normal. You can see that Mozart has spent half of his life on the road between Italy, Switzerland, Germany, even UK. So it's this idea of sharing knowledge, of sharing questions between musicians all over Europe was so natural, so normal in the time of Baroque. So part of the Baroque identity is mobility. And the part of a Baroque identity is also a kind of interdisciplinary openness. Opera, music sacrale, chamber music. It was even in the end of the Baroque, music was shown also to normal people, not only noble people. So it is a time of a big energy, big openness, and a kind of searching attitude, which was shared by most of musicians. And I think this kind of openness also towards the future is still there. If I speak with my Baroque experts in the Mozarteum, they are sometimes more open than the classical and romantic people. They have this kind of discover something and to look backwards, but also to create new music with old instruments, etc. So I think it's not so much about style and technique and a certain knowledge, but more of kind of artistic position, artistic attitude, and this wish to meet, to share, to question. And of course, the genius loci play a role. It's not just, how you call that, it means something, that you create something in Lucerne. And it means these mountains, these lakes, this very special place is wonderful. It's quite near in the center of Switzerland. And you have this festival also in Aix, which is a long tradition. It's a wonderful place. And of course, Salzburg, see, and Siena also. And of course, we have these magic places with this kind of genius loci. And you need, of course, not every place is a genius loci for all history. You have sometimes a kind of window or a kind of time where a place is important, and some years later, it's no more important. But you have this kind of scouts, like Michael Haefliger, who has this feeling what at a certain place is necessary now and what you can do out of it. And the same thing is what you are doing. And of course, I'm a quite big fan of X, and to see how it develops. So I think we have to be aware what this highlights moments in summer academies or in certain festivals means, and to compare it with the normal conservatoire or university work. And Salzburg is for me a field where I can observe this in a really plastic, in a really clear way. We have in Salzburg this identity of education since 1841. The widow of Mozart creates and founds this place of Mozarteum. And we have this big history of the Salzburg Festspiele, of this big festival. I just want to look a little bit back to the history of Mozarteum. What I found really interesting is at the time when the widow of Mozart decided to create this Mozarteum, Salzburg was the poorest region in Austria and Bavaria. It was, the people had not enough to eat. There was, since years, no more possibility for children to get any music education. There was really a really poor situation because of the wars of Napoleon and the secularization in the beginning of the 19th century. And with this foundation, Mozart's window created three things. The first thing, she said, it's not only about education. Education has also to have a basic in a kind of archive or research, library, if you want, a place where scores are shared and how you call that in English, kind of library. No. And the third idea is the musical practice, the festival, if you want. So she creates a Mozarteum orchestra, a Mozarteum foundation with the scores and the letters and the instruments and so on, and the educational sector. And these three pillars are still existing. It's incredible. Nowadays we have a Mozarteum orchestra, which is the orchestra from Salzburg. We have the Mozarteum Foundation, a wonderful big foundation with a fantastic library, with all original documents, and we have the University Mozarteum. And this trias is very near to your idea, what you mentioned, that you have to produce something, you have to put it on stage, you have to share it with the public, you have to go out and show and present what music can be, but you have to have this safe basis where you can learn it, where you can train it, where you can question it. Okay. And what is interesting that after 60 years, the Salzburg was so self-confident that it was possible to create in the beginning of the 20th century the Salzburger Festspiele. It was not a comfortable situation at that time, but they did it. And now we have 100 years of Salzburger Festspiele, 100 years of Sommerakademie of the Mozarteum, well, 105, 106, but it's quite similar. And these three pillars, foundation, orchestra, and university, are still living. So if you see that, and you know that Salzburg now, as the region in Austria, was the highest income. In the average of all Austria, now Salzburg has the highest income. The average, not everybody, so it's, there are questions about it. But just on paper, so you see this development and this cliché that cultural is only how you call it, a thing, but you have to put money, not to invest money. You're losing money.
You're losing money.
That's really not right. Salzburg really tells a complete other story. Coming back to what we are doing now, I experience the work to lead a university as Mozarteum as something quite heavy. You have, Janet knows what I'm talking about. It's really so much about rules, about administration, about tradition. And you are really, the most important work, maybe 90% of the work, is just to do this kind of schoolwork. And I get money only for that. I got money for bachelor and master students and for credit points and things like that. And we need to fund extra money to create something which can be university, an open space for thinking, for exploration, for meeting new people and so on. And we do it. We try to get more money to put forward the contemporary music. So we have an academy for contemporary music with France, with Marseille, at La Friche, in the north of Marseille, a place which is absolutely the contradiction of what Salzburg is. And we are 1 year there and 1 year in Salzburg. And with the young composers and 3 French professional ensembles, we create new things, new formats, new ideas with electronic, with improvisation, with a lot of other thinking in between. And from this kind of open contemporary academy in summer, we do it on top. We make this traditional Sommerakademie of Salzburg, And at the end of the summer, we are coming to Chigiana. And there I experience my professors in the Baroque music as extremely open for the new, for contemporary music, for improvisation, for composing class, for old instruments in a new way. So I think this flow between tradition and future in a genius loci, in a supplement situation as your festival. It's not the normal school, it's something on top. And there, also these meetings, it's not about training music, it's about being recognized. Meet important composers or important artists as a young man or a young woman to be recognized by them. They would give you a feedback and we say, that's fine what you're doing. Go on, try this, try that. It's not about training. It's really about going further, open something, feeling each other, and share this feeling of here's something wonderful, here's something extremely beautiful or relevant or even irritating, exciting. So these highlights are the most important things to push young people, young talent, but also the old one forward. To give these feelings that all this work you have to do to being a good musician has a fantastic goal. And this is a moment these academies, these special festivals can celebrate. And this is a moment, and you have to highlight this. You can't do this all the year on.
No.
You can't be, it's not possible. You have to have this normal daily work, and then you go out and you meet and you celebrate something, which is further. Well, that's it.
Grazie. Thank you very, very much, Elisabeth. I think what you said also, I underline, subscribe all your words. Also because, so Michael Haefliger said, contemporary music is a pillar. You said we have to highlight this work in common, this co-energy, this synchronization of visions, which is very, very, very important. Now, it has no sense in Italy now, which is not an easy moment. I mean, the programming of the traditional institutions, I mean, opera houses and the concerts organization is completely locked. Completely locked. We are watching all the same programs every year, every season, without any opening. The average age of the listener is quite old, and there is no interaction with new vision. Contemporary music is watched like the devil. When you as a composer, you meet an artistic director and you are suggesting to him a new project of contemporary, you say him starting to move like this in order to avoid, and he said, starting to say there is no audience, there is no place to do this, a series of excuses, which is not true at all. I think Michael Haefliger, Elisabeth Gutjahr, Janet Ritterman, Pierre Audi can say it's absolutely a fake. I think the problem of the audience for contemporary music is absolutely fake. If you work in the right way, of course, if you do nothing, it's we are three people, like you say, but I don't think the same experience in the last years. So if you work in the right direction, you can also motivate a new audience to come. I'm interested to know what also are you saying. So, I mean, this is something that from our side can come because we are aware of what is the role played by the people that has worked with us in these decades. Pierre Boulez, Luciano Berio, Franco Donatoni, and the others also. But it's not a question to emphasize contemporary music because it's like a fetish of contemporary, because it's part of our the culture of our time, like at the time it was for the other composers, and also because we don't need to ignore the other time, the previous composers. So we have to bring us with us all together. There is, with thanks to Pierre Boulez, we could discover many other composers that he was he was looking at, like Arnold Schoenberg, for example, but also before and before and before. And the ancient music through Luigi Nono, for example, Luigi Nono was an open door to the ancient music, to Gesualdo, to Frescobaldi, to Monteverdi, for example, as well as Bruno Maderna before him, and Luigi Dalla Piccola, all people that were very much connected to the Accademia Chigiana, to the path of Accademia Chigiana, and they left a lot of track, a lot of sign in our archive. We have many important sources that comes from this composer that has that came to Chigiana. So I think this from one way, but I think there is another important reason of joining the effort in this vision. When I was talking before to Dido and Aeneas and Elisa, we gave the opportunity to this production to have a new performance here, to be performed in Italy, in Siena, which is very important because these productions, they are very demanding. They required a lot of effort, and it's absolutely a pity that they are performed just once, one time in one context, and they cannot live and have a different also performance in a completely different context. And I share absolutely what you say about Genius Loci. We are in very important places, very meaningful places, like Siena, Aix, and Salzburg and Lucerne, and so very unique places. Here, it was a completely different situation. In Salzburg was a very new space, very contemporary space. Here was in our Teatro dei Rinnovati, which is a typical Italian-style theater of 18th century. And it was a very different vision, the same production, but in a very different environment and context. And this gave a different value. I would like to say an added value, but it's something different. And this is the life of the music, the life of a production that has to be seen in different contexts, with different also perception. They has to confront with people that has a different life, a different way, a different culture. And this is the meaning of a music production, definitely. And also in particular, a music production that is coming from a learning project, because this is also important. It is part of a learning project. So, Janet Ritterman, you are the lady of the learning in music. You did so many different things and many different positions. So I would like to know what you think about what we are saying.
Well, before I comment on that, let me begin by echoing words that were said both by Michael and Elisabeth in expressing my thanks for the invitation to join you here in Siena, and indeed to be part of this panel. It's my first visit to Siena. I'm not quite sure how I've managed to miss out for so long, but I now have begun to learn, not least from being able to be here for the whole of this conference, and thank you for that, just what I've been missing out on for such a long time. It's been thoroughly enlightening, very informative to hear the presentations that we've already had. I was thinking as we got to the end of this morning, just before lunch, how fortunate we were with this panel this afternoon to have had Stefan Gies's keynote address this morning with the many thoughts he offered us about where we came from, what we're doing, and where we might be going, and indeed for the very rich insights about what has happened here in courses over the years. I thought too that there was a phrase that Stefan quoted, I hope I'm remembering correctly, from Fast 45. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but he quoted a phrase that really stuck in my mind then and seems so fitting for the sorts of things that both Elisabeth and Michael have been talking about, and certainly has been part of what in my own institution and in others we've been trying to take forward. The phrase, I hope I'm quoting correctly from Stefan, was that we wanted to be a driving force to nurture innovation and creativity in or into, can't remember Stefan, the future. But it seemed to me so close to all those things that we're talking about here, and indeed within institutions we want to do. Nicola, you asked me about what I thought. Well, one of the thoughts that was very strongly in my mind as I was thinking about coming here and the session we're having this afternoon is just how much higher education institutions for music, whatever they call themselves, whether they're conservatoires, academies, colleges, universities, those institutions that train future generations of professional musicians, just how much they've changed since the Accademia Chigiana was first established. Indeed, probably how much they've changed in the last 50 or so years. And one of the ways that it seems to me that they've changed most, and it's very close to things that both Elisabeth and Michael have been talking about, is in relation to their openness. And through that openness, their interest in a variety of collaborations. I think one of the biggest changes has been that these institutions, or at least some of them, now look outward instead of looking mainly inward. Because previously, even 30, 40 years ago, I think it would be true to say there was oddly little contact with the professional world of music making. Even with those professors who were themselves active professionals, people who were playing in professional orchestras, giving concerts around the world, and therefore not there every week to teach their students, making recordings, doing session work. That was somehow, as far as many of these institutions were concerned, a rather different world, and it was one that was rarely mentioned within the training institutions themselves. Summer courses, summer academies did exist, but it was remarkably rare for institutions to encourage their students to attend, unless your teacher happened to be teaching you at one of them, but you didn't go elsewhere. And that has changed enormously. The relationships have become much, much closer in all sorts of ways. And I'm quite sure that's been not only to the benefit of the training institutions themselves and their students and teachers, but in a variety of ways, and some of them we've been talking about already this afternoon, to the professional world of music making. And I think among the things that institutions that I know best are probably most interested in at the moment is how can these collaborations work most productively, most supportively. We, I think, need to be careful that we don't simply proliferate a range of very similar opportunities. Certainly there needs to be sufficient for as many of the young, talented musicians as want to have these specialist opportunities, sufficient there. But there is also, I think, room for real specialism, room for very real focus, and we've had some remarkable examples of that already this afternoon. For the institution that I probably know most from the inside, the Royal College of Music, our range of collaborations of the type we've been talking about this afternoon, of course, are partly in the UK, also elsewhere in Europe. We've had collaborations with various festivals. One, for example, that's worked for quite a long time and I think been mutually productive has been with the London Handel Festival, where with the London Handel Festival, the Royal College of Music produced the singers, identified the work, did some work growing out of its own experience in terms of Handel performance and performance style, worked for most of these annual performances with a professional orchestra that the Handel Festival, the London Handel Festival, employed for that festival. And among the things that the students have most talked about was what they felt they really gained in terms of working as a professional alongside professionals. So I was looking, Nicola, at the Italian phrase for the title of this afternoon's session, and I thought I would add to the first two words alongside other professionals, because I think that that aspect, and it's something that both Michael and Elisabeth in different ways were talking about, that's often among the things that for young talented musicians proves most enlightening, most enriching, and among the things I never quite expected but was fascinated to discover was that the messages from those who'd experienced this at first hand got shared with within the institution with other students, other younger students who hadn't had the experience but were bursting to know about it and were looking then themselves to see what they might do in future years. There's a lot of other things we could share, but we must move on to Pierre in a minute. But I did just want to pick up one of the other threads from Stefan's keynote this morning, when he talked about students being more versatile, thinking about the range of musics within which they're certainly interested and committed. And well, everybody who's spoken so far has talked in different ways about the importance of contemporary music and identifying with that. Certainly, I believe that one finds that within the contemporary generation of students themselves. When I first joined the Royal College of Music as its director, I was concerned to see what the curriculum for the history of music was like, because it barely got to anything contemporary before the students were about to leave. So we did something that we thought might be radical. We just turned it upside down. And so we started there. We found from that there were a whole range of interests that students themselves were far more ready to talk about. We found that the programs they wanted to perform and chose changed. We didn't feel that there was opposition of the kind that you might expect or have heard would be the case. I think we have a very open generation of students coming through. We also, and it's links with something that Michael was talking about when he mentioned his own responsibilities. We have a more entrepreneurial generation of students coming through as well. And if one thinks about what might be future directions, I think recognizing that entrepreneurial streak might well be one of them. Nicola, I'll stop there, but there may be time later to come back.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet Ritterman, because your vision is very important. You did so much and for innovating the learning perspective, and in particular in a place like Royal College of Music, which is one of the most important institutions in the world. So I think that now really we are understanding how the learning in music must really looking towards a new perspective that is really a mix of experiences involving the knowledge of the tradition, of the heritage of music, but also of the ancient music, like we said before, the contemporary music, putting all this in a new perspective that is that is how we are really thinking to the music in the present time. Which role has the music in the present time? The classical music, the culture, the art music, so to say. Also, Michael Haefliger and you also were talking about new technologies. The role of the place of new technologies is very, very important. That's why we introduced, for example, in 2015, the course of live electronics, sound and music computing, which is a very important part of the general project, learning project of Chigiana. And this is the idea, thinking not. It was great what Michael Haefliger said from their beginning. We did master class, but this is not doing a project. This is not characterizing a project. No. So the idea of the Chigiana Academy now is really the idea of a project on the music in general. We don't have all the courses of all instruments. We have a specific idea that we are developing, and close to this we are creating new project like the film scoring program we have created now on the source, on the experience of film music learning in the past with Ennio Morricone, with Luis Bacalov, with Nino Rota before, and but now, for example, it has, as I said, about Baroque music, it has no sense. One course with one professor, also a big name, but it's not what the composers that are working in this domain are interesting to learn. Film scoring is a mixture of experience, is an ensemble of experience, studio recording, editing, arranging, orchestrating, composing, of course, relations with audiovisual. It has even not more sense to talk music for films, because audiovisual is a wide domain. And that's why we opened this new department, sound and image department, with a new course of film scoring program involving 8 to 10 professors that are working together with students and so on. So this is something that is very important. Think to a project, not to episodes, single episodes, like one course, one master class. No. Think to a project on today's music. Pierre Audi. So differently from Lucerne, from Mozarteum or Royal College of Music, and from Chigiana, Aix-en-Provence is a more focusing festival. You are a festival in summer dedicated to opera. And what I said, maybe it is possible to about the idea to think to a project on the opera can be applied to what you are doing. Could you describe what is how is developed your festival, and what is the role of the academy in your organization?
Nicola, you invited too many people this afternoon to talk. so I won't have a lot of time to.
No, you have.
say.
No,
It doesn't matter.
We have time.
Maybe that's
we
good.
Have time.
I have to be super short. Unfortunately, I'm not going to answer your question directly, because my journey in arriving in Aix is only the result of a lifetime's work before, like 45 years before, which started in the country where I was born, Lebanon, in the 60s, where I discovered as an adolescent contemporary music, because at that time country institutes like the Italian Institute or the German Institute or the Austrian Institute or the French Institute invited artists to come to Beirut and show their work or appear. And this boy, me, was fortunate to be confronted with some major events which have influenced the rest of my life. And in that time, I was fortunate to meet, on the Italian side, for instance, Pasolini. I was present at the famous concert of Stockhausen in the Grotto of Geita with his ensemble, and Peter Utwisch was playing in that ensemble which was inaugurating this incredible grotto in Lebanon, which of course left an enormous impact on me. I met Maurizio Cargel, who was visiting with his man orchestra, where he had touring this orchestra, which was made out of people dressed as instruments, playing instruments. So they were not playing instruments, they were dressed as instruments, and they were making music. And I met Jacques Tati, I met other composers, but my love of contemporary music was born from this shock of being confronted with these personalities as performers. And so where I started was the marriage between contemporary music and theater, because all these experiences were visual experiences. They were cultural experiences, because those people were coming from planet Mars to a Middle Eastern country that had a strange society. At the time, of course, we were not at war. We were not. It was Lebanon, in which was called at the time the Switzerland of the Middle East. And so this love of importing culture to another culture is the start of my life. And the second element, which distinguishes me from, say, the two of you, is that I'm an autodidact. So I never learned anything from any professor. And I learn all the time. Like everything I did in Tokyo last month was a learning experience, exactly as it was when I was 13 or 14 when I went to the Stockhausen concert. So all my life I'm learning. So everything I'm doing is learning by doing. So, but I have no right to do anything because I didn't learn it from anybody. I'm not exercising a skill. I am expressing the result of my instinct. And my instinct when I was a kid was the appetite to share with audiences the work of other artists. So to bring Stockhausen or Cargel or to Lebanon, or Pasolini appearing in Lebanon, was a gift to the people who sat there and met these artists. So for me, this mission, I felt my mission is to do the same for the rest of my life and do it in different countries. So the war broke up, my family went into exile, and I went to the UK. And I studied at Oxford, and my love of cinema and love of music and theatre was expressed in Oxford in the same way. And with a group of friends, we started a theatre in North London, in a country which was very insular in the 70s and 80s. In other words, a country that was very closed to Europe, where these composers were not necessarily very visible in UK. UK was very close to itself. It loved its own composers, its own British composers, but was not that interested in Europe. Of course, I wasn't at the time British. I became naturalized British, but at the time I was interested, like what I experienced in Lebanon, to bring to London composers, music, theatre, other cultural events that were new and that would enrich the life of London. And we founded, as a group of friends, this theatre called the Almeida, where we were not able to perform because it was a ruin. So we were forced to invent a festival. And this festival was called the Almeida Contemporary Music Festival, which lasted for 10 years and had a tremendous impact on the musical life of the UK, because there was nothing like it in the UK. But what was fascinating is that in those years, all the great composers were all alive and could come to London and be there at the concerts and show their music. And one of them was a person you knew well, Gioacchino Chelsea, for instance, who never left his palazzo in Rome, but came to the Almeida. And Conlon Nancaro, who never left Mexico, but he left to come to the Almeida. And many, many other composers who were alive, like Virgil Thompson, and Steve Reich was 50, John Cage was 70. All these anniversaries were celebrated. Schnittke was very important. And so we, over 10 years, covered a tremendous amount of music with a lot of amazing living composers that had one trait, and it connected with my vision in a way, but I wasn't imposing it on them. I wanted people who were not music specialists to enjoy these concerts because of the theatricality of the music. So I was interested in the theater of the music, not in the theory of the music. And of course, you mentioned I'm a régisseur. So yes, I'm a régisseur, but when I hear a piece of music, I think about the theater of the sound. And that's kind of what stayed with me, which I've always felt should be transmitted, until I was asked at the age of 30 to go to Holland to run the opera there in Amsterdam. And I worked there for 30 years at the opera, developing a very special work, because the opera house was only 2 years old, and opera was a relatively new art form for the Netherlands. And I had a big responsibility to do a lot of repertoire that had never been done in Holland, including the first Dutch Ring by Wagner, which the Ring had never been done in Holland. But in my love of contemporary music, I was able to commission a lot of major composers and be very loyal to them, like John Adams, like George Benjamin. And I had this amazing friendship with Oliver Nassen, with whom I did a great deal of work. And Oliver Nassen and I were very similar in the sense that Ollie loved theatre, and actually he composed incidental music for 2 plays that I directed. And he was this amazing figure, conducting, teaching, composing, inspiring, that Michael is mentioning. Of course, Wolfgang Heim was that, Hans-Werner Henze was that, Pierre Boulez was that, but he played a very important role in my life. And he conducted Punch and Judy by Birtwistle, Morton Feldman's Neither, in Amsterdam. So we did very interesting things together. And this 30 years in Amsterdam, which was also, there was 10 years in which I was also director of the Holland Festival, which is an arts festival, like theater, dance, music, opera, celebrated my love of the synergy between the arts. So music was always there if there was visual art, if there was theater, if there was dance. You know, this combination for me is at the center of everything. And that's where I felt there was hope for a new generation to come in through mixing the arts, through mixing the audiences, to opening modern music to dance, and bringing opera in and trying to find out what opera can be and where is it going. That's why I created in Amsterdam this festival called Opera Forward, because I felt that there should be an open platform, which in itself is a kind of imaginary academy, in which you can just do anything. It's just an empty shell, but you can there, as a laboratorium, program things, make contrasts, clashes. Until Bernard Foucroul came to me, who had been an ex nearly 10 years, and asked me if I was interested to become his successor. And because I was approaching 30 years, I thought, yes, I think I don't want to stay more than 30 years. I've done what I needed to do in Holland, and it was time to think of a last job, and perhaps a festival was the right thing for me, because I started with a festival. That's what I told you at the beginning, and I think it makes sense for me to finish with a festival. And Bernard's work in Aix, he didn't found the Academy. The Academy was founded by Stéphane Lissner before him, so the Academy is nearly 30 years there. But his work on education, socio-educational work, was very important. He admired what I did in Amsterdam, I admired what he did in Aix, and I thought, I want to continue what he started and develop it in my own way. And that's why I accepted Aix, and I've just finished 5 years there, and I start another 4 years in 24. What is remarkable about the Academy is that it doesn't exist. It is a virtual platform. It is an open platform, which can be anything. And of course, there is every year an Academy for Singers, which is quite famous. But it started with Lissner, with the Percussion de Strasbourg, inaugurating the first Academy. So it started with instrumentalists. And so in the course of time, it became a shifting moment lasting about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, in which anything could be debated and studied and brought together, bringing young people to the festival and igniting a connection between the main opera program and what it means to look at opera today as a young person coming from being an instrumentalist, or being a singer, or being a director, or being a designer, or anything to do with what opera or music can be. And so for me it was so open that, for instance, 1 year we did it twice. I said we need to cultivate music journalists, the people who are writing about music. They have such a responsibility. If they write nonsense, or if they write not in the spirit we're trying to be open, to use your word, this openness, I want to read it in the newspaper. They have the responsibility to communicate to audiences, to young people. They have the responsibility to transmit the message of composers, of directors, of conductors, of people working. They should come to workshops, and we should create a workshop, an academic workshop for them. electronic music in opera. You talked about electronic music, but for me it was also, where's electronic music going for opera and music theatre?
Exactly.
So we created platforms in the Academy for music theatre and electronics, because that's very important. And I think the other great advantage of the Academy is that it's operating on a small scale. In other words, to write a big opera, you know, a big opera by John Adams, or big opera by Thomas Hadès, or by Luciano Berio, those are very private experiences between a composer and the idea of a big theatre they're writing for, La Scala or the Paris Opera or whatever. Those are have created masterpieces, have created important works, but the real roots start with music theatre. You know, chamber music, a singer here, a percussionist there, a film, or an actress or an actor or a chorus. Those kinds of ingredients are the basis, and those are economically affordable. And we can generate work faster, cheaper, and bring in young people and test them and see where there is a talent emerging. So in X, that aspect is very important, and Bernard started this European platform of academies, NOA, and NOA is run by X, and it's very important, and it's also a way to federate European academies and be able to distribute and tour productions. So it's a complex world that we live in, and a complex journey of contemporary music. A lot of people have tried in their own way. I was fortunate enough to work with Pierre Boulez, and fortunate enough, as I just told you, to work with Olli Nassen. I did the last two world premieres of Henze and of Wolfgang Riem. I know these composers who are giving more than simply their work. You are one of them. You are an artist, but you are doing so much more to connect your art, but also the art of other people. So this generosity is very important. And I think this is the future. And for me, an academy is something that can float and think 360 degrees, bring cultures together, because we should not just stop at Europe. And in X, for instance, we are running the European network, but on the condition that we also run the Mediterranean Youth Orchestra, and Medinea, which is a network of musicians from around the Mediterranean, so that it's not just about Europe, it's also about outer Europe and about reaching out to the rest of the world. This is what we need, particularly nowadays when the countries are closing up, getting more and more extreme right, more and more pushing people away. We need to do the opposite in culture. We need to be open. And so for me, you know, at the Almeida, I tried at that time to say, in my own modest way, the UK is an amazing culture, a wonderful country, but it needs to open the windows and the doors to Europe and the rest of the world. It's not it, and this was, to my surprise, incredibly appreciated at the time. It's only today, in 2024, that the work that we did in the Almeida in the 80s has finally percolated into the big establishment in the UK, the South Bank, the Barbican, the big orchestras, Edinburgh Festival, Manchester Festival. All these institutions now, in a sense, are operating with the same colors, the same perfumes that we at the Almeida were busy with in Islington in the 80s. So it takes a long time sometimes for the message to come through. But that's what's important. And in my own simple personal experience, being an autodidact, I think we should also open our hearts to people who are not just the brilliant musicians, the fantastic, you know, but there are also people who have instinct, who have talent, who should also participate as listeners, as artists contributing, and they can come from any area. And it would be wonderful if an academy left space for these people, because I think that's kind of the future, you know. And I think the great artists that you mentioned, you know, Berriot, about all the Nono, who also I knew very well and was an incredible poet, and also Henser, who was also a tremendous visionary, so much interested in other people's music and young composers. This is all something, if we met it, if we've been in touch with it, it's our job while we're still working to keep these ideas alive. I don't know how, but anyway, in my modest way, I'm trying to do in Aix a job to keep what Bernard has started and extend it. And also, thank you very much for inviting me today, because this connection between festivals, we've been in touch, the three of us, many times between Aix and Lucerne and Salzburg. But you have worked with Bernard here at the Academy. So this is so important, and I'm very happy that I could be here to get to know the Academy better and to congratulate you on the 100 years and the wonderful work you're doing here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pierre. You see how important is this meeting. I would like to say, really, I brought a lot of things. I took a lot of notes. I think we really, at this table, we are the witness of a lot of important experiences. Pierre has mentioned Pasolini, has mentioned Nono, has mentioned his wonderful experience at Almeida. Almeida was a kind of one of the first open space for the new theater. Is where new theater is born, really, new musical theater, and so many experiences. He has mentioned Olli Nassen, great composer, great conductor, great man of music. I think I am one of the only director who has done something by Nassen in Italy. So we did, in Bologna. We worked on a wonderful theater project, and all the Henze is very important for this town, for this land. He's created Montepulciano Festival, of course, but he was very connected to Tuscany and to this place also. And I had a special relationship with him. We really had a very important moment and of exchanging experience, and it was very fruitful, as well as Luigi Nono, and what we are doing to keep the memory of Nono. For example, let's talk 1 minute about that, because it's important. I think it's important also that to make you know this idea this way. Last year we dedicated to Nono the festival, the focus, the contemporary focus of the festival, and we performed 14 compositions by Nono with our atelier, with our course of live electronic sound and music computing, which is led by Alvise Vidolin, which is the man who has worked with Nono. He did all the experience by Luigi Nono before the last period in Freiburg was developed with Alvise Vidolin, and so we called some of the still alive people who worked with Luigi Nono, like Roberto Fabriciani, for example, to work with the students and to work with some soloists and young and young students of the course, and we did marvelous performances with our chorus that has recorded this marvelous CD. Now it's a chorus that is we started in 2017, and now it's really one of the most important choir in Italy. And we did Das Atmen der Klarsein with this choir, and with Roberto, and with the live electronics group students that could learn how to perform from the direct witnessing of the people who worked with him. We did Guai ai geli di mostri. We did No hay camino, hay que caminar, Andrei Tarkovsky. The son of Tarkovsky was with us, and with the orchestra split in the space. We had full house. It was in the church of Sant'Agostino, which is a big church. It was completely full of audience, and it was an incredible moment with our young percussionists from the percussion course that were joining the orchestra of Tuscany to do this piece together, this performance together. We did Sofferte onde serene. We did so many pieces that are quite difficult, quite demanding. Con Luigi Della Piccola, with a class of percussion headed by Antonio Caggiano, which is one of the most important percussionists of our time. He was won the Lion at the last Biennale in Venice. So it's all this is in the line what Michael Haefliger said, what Elisabeth said, what Janet said, what you said, joining the most important experiences and transmit these experiences to the new generation. And you said a very important thing, imagining theater also inside the sound. The theater inside the sound as a complex object. This is the lesson of Luigi Nono, of Giacinto Chelsea. Create an environment inside it. And Berio. Another example, we did this last summer, the focus was Berio, and we opened with coro and with voci. Tabea Zimmermann performed the voci with the Tuscany Orchestra, and also integrated by our students, and coro with our choir and orchestra. An incredible composition, coro. I mean, for me personally, we did 30 pieces by Berio, and for me was an incredible experience to go inside the music of Berio. When you program, when you perform this, you put your head inside, and I understood how incredible things he was saying in his life, very advanced, that now we are discovering, and we are exploring is inside of a learning project, going from one class to the other. Elliot Fisk performing the sequenza for guitar with his students, transmitting his heritage. He was the performer, the first performer that is dedicated to him. The sequenza by Berio is teaching guitar here. So we have this ideal, really, transmission, and so for this I'm asking you to all of you really very quick, because then we have the discussion, and I would like to say what Giancarlo Riccio would like to say, and so in 2 minutes, how do you think we can create some common relationship, as well as we started already with Salzburg, with Mozarteum in Salzburg? But imagine just quickly how we can put this effort, this energy that we are driving and we are putting in our activity together. Michael.
It's a very good question and a challenging question, but I think you have to try to go about it as simplistic as possible. Break it down to the simple dimensions, not make it too complicated. So there's a common vision, perhaps, in a certain part of the music, like contemporary music, but it can be different, obviously. you establish this kind of common vision. You establish a vision that you are united, that you want to support the younger generation in becoming better interpreters in contemporary music. And I think that is already a very strong common ground. And then you say, how can we make this work among the institutions? Are we institutions or are we not? What is the goal we want to achieve? And so I would try to be as simple as possible, and especially then when it comes down to the projects, not make it too difficult. In other words, budget-wise and financially, and all these projects have tremendous complexities behind them, and also in arranging that the students can be available, if they are students or maybe they're postgrads, what exactly are they? So to go about it try to be very structured, but the vision has to be tremendous. And I think that would not be difficult among each other. I think we are all people that have dreams, and we
but also a culture of practice.
Yeah, but also go for the project that seem impossible. And maybe there are projects that you can only do together. Thank you.
Elisabeth.
Yes, I think we should look for this project we can only do together. I could imagine 2 or 3 things very easily. One thing is to create a kind of to give money to some students, and for example, from all of our everybody of us recommend one student, and we put them together for an ensemble kind of summer project, and they start. I don't know who is the first in the summer. Maybe X is the first, and they stay 1 week with you, or 2 weeks, takes their impulses, then they come to you, continue, then I think we are, and then you, and maybe Rory, I don't know exactly your time, and at the end they create something. It's up to them what they want to do. If it's about theater, it's about new contemporary composition, is it about artistic concept with electronics, improvisation, even maybe an actor who is also singing, but not a professional singer, maybe a dancer. Well, it could be quite different. And then to finish the creation and to show it the next year at every place, for example. So that we have a kind of travel ensemble, which has the opportunity to meet all of you, to talk to you, even maybe 2 hours, if we can't find the time, and to be also in a maybe critical distance position. We don't know what the young people want to do, and they have to decide what is their artistic project, but they have to bring it on the stage at the end of the time. So this could be something, and they meet people from there. So this is one thing I could imagine, and the other thing I could imagine that we share one topic each year, and we create, on each of us, create something to this topic, even maybe in the academy, maybe on the main project, but we decide one question or one word, one term, one face, we don't know. But one thing we take as one topic for all us. Not it's a main topic for your festival, not, but one thing we share, and we bring it out. And we try to push it. Well, that's it.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting proposal. So, a possibility to create an ensemble, a joint ensemble with 1 or 2 instrumentalists for each institution, which is absolutely it's absolutely great. I mean, it's an idea not difficult, and then yes, of course, but creating a program that can be rehearsed in each place and then performed in every place. Maybe with one also composition which is part of the project of each academy. This is very, very interesting, and also the topic that can be seen as a possible answer in different contexts. It's very, very interesting. Thank you very much. We can keep these ideas. Janet.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what's been said already. I'm sure sorry, beg your pardon. I was expressing my agreement with what's already been said. I'm quite sure that the vision has to be communicated, but it does, I think, need to be communicated partly in concrete terms, making clear the aspects of the experience that this can offer uniquely. I think it's important for us to remember that compared with, say, about 20 or 30 years ago, students now stay in higher education music institutions for years longer than they used to. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, people stayed 3 or 4 years. Now it's not unusual for them to be staying 7 or 8 years and to be applying to opportunities like summer academies towards the end of that period of time. So within that, there will have been things that they've experienced in terms of master classes, workshops, some small projects. But what this can offer is something that would be really very particular and very special. So I think communicating what are the USPs about the idea would be an important aspect.
Absolutely.
But I think at the same time, and I think Elisabeth was touching on it, and I was, I suppose, referring to it when I talked about students, many of them, having a more entrepreneurial outlook to what they're doing and the building of their own careers. So making sure that the communication of what it would involve shows that it's not something that's going to be done to them, it's something that they are uniquely helping to contribute. And for me, that would be probably the most important thing to be communicating. But while I've just got the microphone, can I say what I quietly said to Pierre after he spoke? And that was, had he not done what he did at the Almeida, it wouldn't have been possible for us to make many of the changes that we did within the higher education institutions.
Pierre.
I think the only thing I would add, because we talked a lot about dead composers, we talked a lot about the few living masters that we can still invite. There are not many. I think what I would like to see is not so much carte blanche and then let's tour. It's nice, but I am curious to see how we can bring back mentors to the front of the stage to work with young people and make that the driving force of a project. It doesn't mean it's the project of that mentor, but that mentor is there, and that mentor can also move with the artists from Lucerne to Salzburg to Aix. And also that mentor does not necessarily need to be a composer, or it could be several. Well, it could, basically I would add the whole idea about the personalities that are alive today, how we can one day, say it was, the other Pierre Boulez, the other Nassan, they're not with us, Hens is not with us, Berrios not with us, Nono's not with us. We knew them, we met them, we know how powerful they were, but they're all gone. And we haven't got many, I'm afraid, to work with. I mean, you know that very well. It's very, very hard. And so that's, for me, something I want to think about the place of the new mentors and the inspiration, and who can be encouraged to come in and help us to move on these old messages and create new ones. I don't have the answer, but I'm just saying that for me is something we should really think about. And it's because this will be needed, because it's those mentors, they came back in the conversation all the time. They were inspiring, they were motorizing, they were inventing, they were they were key. And
just a question, could it be someone from another artistic field?
Of course,
For
very
example,
much
a
so.
dancer?
Of course.
And sorry for that, but we're always speaking about male mentors.
Yeah.
It's the only woman which was mentioned was Tabea Zimmermann, and all the others. I'm not sure if the period or the time of male mentors, on these great mentors, is still
Mentors
continuing.
is without any sex. I didn't mean mentors, male mentors. It could be.
No, but
No, it's the
women
example.
have another. They are
Of
not
course.
this kind of. It's more rare that they have this kind of profile. They're
Well,
working in another way, so maybe it's more difficult to identify
I mean,
them
we've been
as mentors.
we've been working 10 years with Katie Mitchell.
Yes,
Every
okay,
year.
that's great.
In X, she has her own laboratorium, which will end.
Great stage director.
And now, but she will have done 10 years of work for the Academy.
That's great. Yeah.
But Katie,
I was going to
Katie Mitchell was really an artist in general, so you cannot even say she's a stage director. She's I saw her Gran Sole and other Bainono or other the wonderful Alcina, also in Aix-en-Provence. It was something really extraordinary. So I mean, it could be some also kind of person like this. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you. So before giving the stage, the podium to Stefano Iacoviello, I would like to listen. Giancarlo Riccio maybe would like to say something. We need the help of Mattia for. He's talking in Italian, yeah. I can understand Giancarlo Riccio without headphones. No, they give you the microphone.
Yes, I will give the microphone to Giancarlo Riccio. Maybe we can collect the questions and then leave them the possibility. Funziona. Si sente poco, ma funziona sull'online. Mattia, si può alzare un po' questo? Questo.
We have then he do the question.
So Giancarlo Riccio will speak Italian.
After this.
He's going to speak Italian? Okay. Thank you.
Sì, buonasera a tutti. Chiedo scusa per la breve produzione in lingua italiana dovuta al fatto che ci sono anche dei giornalisti modesti come me, non solo giornalisti bravi come avete ascoltato anche in questi giorni qui a Siena, ma sono anche impegnato nella cura di una persona molto cara che non sta bene, quindi dormo molto poco e sono davvero totmüde da un po' di giorni, quindi chiedo scusa ai relatori, chiedo scusa a tutti i presenti, chiedo scusa a Nicola Sani, padrone di casa, insieme ai suoi colleghi, e dirò alcune cose che riguardano il tempo e i tempi che mi pare siano emersi durante questa bellissima avventura a 5 che abbiamo ascoltato. Queste signore, queste belle signore, questi bei giovanotti, questi 3 bei giovanotti che hanno parlato fino adesso, possono essere in buona parte i nuovi punti cardinali, non solo in Europa, della bella musica. Quando io intervisto direttori, solisti, anche prime parti e non solo prime parti di orchestre, la distinzione ormai è in modo radicale tra bella e cattiva musica, e tutti premono affinché le grandi istituzioni come quelle rappresentate dai 5 nostri amici, amiche e amici sul palco in questo momento, sia indispensabile legare formazione e naturalmente sviluppo attraverso allestimenti di spettacoli. In questa chiave, quando le grandi istituzioni di cui abbiamo ascoltato i molto avventurosi e coraggiosi capitane e capitani coraggiosi, molto verte sul tempo. Voi 5 state intervenendo sul tempo, non so sulle nuvole, non so sul sole, non so sul clima, ma sul tempo che conteggiamo ogni momento. Voi sapete bene quanto una serie di grandi musicisti abbiano sul tempo e sul silenzio scritto dei libri, in parte anche contestati, in parte invece molto ascoltati. Un esempio per tutti, anche per quanto riguarda interviste e interventi pubblici, riguarda un musicista italiano che si chiama, perché è ancora qui tra di noi, Claudio Abbado. Voi 5, se intervenite sul tempo, vuol dire che non avete intenzione di costruire una nuova Zeitmaschine, una nuova macchina del tempo. Volete fare di più. Volete cioè formare nelle vostre realtà didattiche e anche di organizzazione e di ideazione di spettacoli una figura nuova che non uscirà mai senza di voi da un conservatorio, da una Hochmusikschule, da una grande istituzione come quella londinese, naturalmente dal Mozarteum, invece sì, perché si tratta, nel caso dell'Università di Salisburgo, di una università delle performing arts, non di una facoltà di musicologia di cui dovremo presto probabilmente celebrare la decadenza e forse peggio. Voi 5, se intervenite sul tempo, lo fate perché non tanto vi basta il tempo che avete, il tempo che hanno i vostri interlocutori, le vostre allieve e i vostri allievi, ma perché è il momento di cambiarlo il tempo, di cadenzarlo in modo diverso, di viverlo in modo diverso, di proporlo alle vostre allieve, ai vostri allievi, ai vostri interlocutori in modo differente. Non è semplice, perché i giornali, i telegiornali, i giornali radio, i siti web ci parlano di 4, 5, 6 focolai di guerra nel mondo. Le cronache recenti, soprattutto purtroppo italiane, ci parlano di persone consapevoli, non pazzi, che uccidono le proprie compagne o comunque delle persone, donne che hanno storie importanti che non potranno più direttamente raccontarci. Siamo dunque distratti dalla cronaca, dalla geopolitica nel senso più superficiale, siamo così distratti da ancora altre cose. Ma quando qualche mese fa è stata decisa da parte di Chigiana e da parte di Mozarteum una bellissima Mitarbeit, una bellissima collaborazione su 2 spettacoli realizzati da allieve e allievi del dell'università, ripeto università, non facoltà, università Mozarteum di Salisburgo, guardate che in giro per le redazioni dei giornali, in giro anche per i conservatori dove sopravvivono persone pensanti, non troppo numerosi, ebbene si è festeggiato a questa notizia. Il passo successivo è cambiare il tempo per creare una nuova figura che voi potrete in buona parte costruire. Quindi un buonissimo lavoro e non abbiate fretta. Grazie.
Thank you, Giancarlo.
I think we can keep on collecting the questions and the remarks.
If there are questions,
Antonio Cascelli.
Antonio Cascelli.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you very much for your talk, bringing to us your experience. I'd like to be as gentle as possible, a little bit provocative, if you don't mind. But I just want to specify that my provocation comes from a place of great admiration for what you do. I'm heavily involved myself with music education. As I hinted at this morning, I'm head of music in a university in Ireland, where I fight every single day in, day out with people who have no idea what music research is, what listening to music critically is, even colleagues who have their research degree and are professor in different faculties. And the little I can do at the moment, for example, I have some link with the Wexford Opera Festival. I teach a module on opera, and the students write a short review. The 4 best reviews are published on the website of the festival. But here is the provocation. Is there the possibility that your institutions are a highly privileged institution? And if so, in the spirit of collaboration, in the spirit of opening heart and windows to new possibilities, is there the space that these highly privileged institutions can create a network of collaboration with the other institutions, or higher level institutions, which are still essential to the creation of a public, of an audience, who need to be able to listen critically to the fantastic production that you put on stage, that you create, to the fantastic collaboration. So, little provocative, but as I said, from a great place of admiration for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
Anybody want to answer to this question?
I have one more.
No, we wait for the other one. No, I would like to answer. If anybody want to answer to Luca.
I have one more question.
Yes, but after we answer, and then no, of course. He asked, Gianluca Cascelli asked if there is any institution that is interested to cooperate with other institutions that are doing operas, and you mean institution like operas or symphony concerts, music institutions, I mean.
Music institutions,
Yeah.
Department of Musicology, for example, institutions which educate.
Also in the field of education, I mean universities, universities, okay.
Higher education level.
Okay, Michael?
Yes, I mean, the answer is a clear yes, but, and I'm also a realist, and to some degree also pragmatic. And I would like to say is that we see that we are so absorbed with all of our projects that we work on in the team, that we create, especially now also in the contemporary field, but also in other projects. It's if we add yet another layer, it means that we need to think about our structure. But I've always proposed, and we were very close to uniting together with the conservatory, the University of Music now in Lucerne, to actually make like a fusion between the academy and also the school there, and to create a contemporary program at the university, at the Hochschule, yeah, and including bachelor and master degrees and so on and so forth, to really give yet another support to the contemporary dimension. And Lucerne now, the Lucerne Festival really has a strong dimension. It is almost an institution, I allow to say that. And so I think those are the real touch points. If it's just about to say we cooperate with this organization or that organization, that's nice to have, and but it shouldn't be showtime. It should be real hard work. And I think we have one process in the arts that is tremendously important, and that is going from education, from workshop, from moderation, from introduction to performance to the performance and back, and to really mix that up and to really intertwine those processes as a common ground for the arts, or for the performing arts, to be walking upon. And I think in that process, in those processes, we can work together. And I think that's the cooperation has to make sense.
You can find a space.
I mean, it's nice. I love to come to Siena. I love to go to Italy, and to come here and to say we bring one performance from the Lucerne Festival. But what is it really going to achieve, aside from interacting and, you know, also creating benefits for our students or whoever, for the artist community? That is important. But really, really think, what is the expectation behind it? What does our society need? What do the arts need? And also to look into the processes taking place in our society, such as migration. It is not just a problem. It's something that will really challenge us for the next 50 years. And how do the arts interact, or how do we work? And I think that is where more than one institution can work together.
No, but I agree completely what you said, that we have to find the right space and the right context for such collaborations. Absolutely, I absolutely against the idea. We bring a production like we worked for Dido, for example. Simply, there is a project. We do here, we do there, we put our effort together, we put our common space for this, because the space is a learning process. And in this learning process, we put this ship, no? This like a new idea. This is the floating in this space, and this works. And this has worked. I am really also very interested in what Pierre said about the writings, about the critics. It's this is we for example we have worked on that in Chigiana, and we have created the course Tell Me Chigiana, which is a special course for music critics, and it's an experience. We work together with the critics here. They come, they stay, and Stefano Iacoviello has created and is coordinating this course, and it's very lively. It's an opportunity extraordinary for young people that are coming here, and they write about what is happening daily, day by day, during the festival, during the master classes, and it's an extraordinary opportunity. You know? They can talk, they can describe, they can do their critics, and we are publishing it. Through web, etc. So we have to find the right space, which is not something abstract, but is something connected to our way of work. No,
Yeah.
Please.
I just want to add one thing. In Austria, of course, we all universities and conservatoires are really engaged in society in quite different ways, in an educational thing, but also in kind of sharing concerts in unusual places, or to bring people together to come to opera, theater. So I think that's something which is really self-understanding now. It took a little time, and not everybody, of course, but all my colleagues are really seriously behind to push it up and to foster this responsibility also to share. And on the other side, we are privileged, yes, but a lot of students are not privileged. They are really poor. They come from, and they have a fantastic talent, and they need this structure to develop their talent. So it's not only one side. It's really we try to recognize and to support all people, even if they are very poor, even if they're coming from the suburbs, from somewhere. We really try to have the funding to help them to find their possibility to develop as best as possible, just to share this knowledge with you. Yeah.
Thank you. You would like to say? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I agree with everything that's been said so far, but I think in terms of finding the space that you're talking about, Nicola, the space can probably be found most easily through contact with the higher education institutions, because many of the largest and perhaps longest established of them now have research in the terms that the questioner, I think, was asking, as a key element of the work that they're doing, often across quite a range of strands, musicological work, but pedagogical work, a range of areas of research. And if you had a word to Stefan Gies afterwards, he would probably point you to one of the specialist groups within the AEC, the Association Européenne de Conservatoire, etc., which specifically brings together institutions that are interested in pursuing research in a range of ways. And certainly within the institution that I am associated with and I suppose represent this afternoon, we had a slightly unusual launching, if you like. When the college was founded, it was Sir George Grove of Grove's Dictionary fame, who was the first director. As a result, the Royal College of Music inherited a whole range of very valuable manuscripts, one at least of which I think Elisabeth would still like us to part with. We have K491 in our library. But ever since the founding of the Royal College of Music, research of some kind, and much of it is quite strongly associated with the performing that's going on in the institution, and indeed the works being performed, has been an integral part of what we've done. There are also networks of institutions across Europe that get together to bid for European funding for research projects. Often, those networks are looking for partners that would want to be part of it. So if you are interested in joining one or more of those networks, there would certainly be ways to do it. And Stefan, I'm sure, could tell you some of them, and I could mention others to you if you wanted to have a word after this session.
Thank you, thank you. We, from our side, for example, we are working a lot in cooperation with many universities, as this conference says, but in particular for our library and our archive, we are working very well with the University of Siena. So I mean, it's would you like to say something, or we can listen to the? No, it's fine. Okay, Stefano.
Yes, I take the prompt from what Pierre Audi said at the end of his intervention, and also Michael Haefliger. My question is addressed to Elisabeth Gutjahr, but if anybody wants to give an answer as well, it would be nice. Since yesterday, we are talking about the role. What is the role of a cultural institution, and about the difference between entertainment and cultural operations. We had the experience with the opportunity during this summer with Elisa and Aidonias to understand that it was not just Academy Festival. It's not just an opportunity to offer to young students to participate in a valuable production and a performance, professional performance, because I was amazed and so glad to participate and give the efforts in carrying out that work during this summer, because I think that Elisa and Aidonias gave to the young artists the chance to take part in something that had a political agency, but it was not so something merely dealing with a claim about the people who died crossing the Mediterranean Sea, because it had to do with memory, identity, and relation between women and power, and also along with the heritage of colonialism and racism and imperialism and what else. But anyway,
Yes.
so the question is, according to what I said, what is the role of a cultural and educational institution for you?
For me, okay. I like this word from Pierre Audi, the shock. I think the difference between entertainment and the experience of a real artistic and profound performance or event is this moment of shock in a positive way, that you're really under tension, that you really experience something which has a big relevance for your life, even if you can't express it in words. You feel something and you feel, whoop, that touches me, that makes something with me, that open maybe a thought or a feeling, that connects me to things which are in the world with existence. And I think all serious music and all serious arts is about, even if it's full of laughter. It's not that it's about sad or provocating. It could be provocating, but something, it could even be light, but it's touching you in a point where entertainment has not the chance to go there. Of course, you can be entertained by music, there's no questions, and you can be fantastically entertained. And well, the role of our institutions, how I like to, well, I'm an autodidact too. I never learned how to lead institution like the Mozarteum. That's something I had to invent every day new. And it's always also self-questioning. Am I right? Is it really the right way? What I'm looking forward, what touches me? And I want to accept for all artists that we are not in a stable world, we are in a dynamic process, and we have to deal with this big dynamic, with this change in the world. And art is the possibility to give expression to how we experience that. And I try to give the institutions a role to create a safe space, to be strong enough, to be real, and to be able to deal with your possibility as artist all your life. So that you are not only learning something which you have to show afterwards in a professional way, but that you are encouraged, that you find yourself to continue a track, continue a way to be strong in this world and to show how arts can help you to deal with this world and to survive. And this is for me the most important thing, not that they're only playing piano, maybe that they're doing other things, but they have this strong energy to create something better and to create something real in the world. That's for me the role our institution have to do, this encouragement and a lot of other things. But this is for me the most important things. And that was Elisa. It was not only a cooperation. No. It was to open something for going deeper and yes, to combine something Baroque with something really actual, really contemporary. Yeah.
But this is extremely important, and thank you, Stefano, for this question, because it goes to this morning the topic that Enrico Girardi talked about, what is engagement, the meaning of engagement today at our time. It's not anymore the engagement, the political engagement of Luigi Nono, for example, or these people who are in the 70s, they're politically and socially engaged. The engagement is to change the perspective. I agree really very much with Giancarlo Riccio said we are working on the time, about the time, on changing the time. Wie die Zeit vergeht, said Karen Stockhausen. So say we are working on the changing of time. And so what is meaning engagement now? It's meaning that we have to underline that doing contemporary musical theater, as exactly Pierre Audi said before, is something that put together our effort in doing a new form of music theater, so theatrical project that can be part of our time. And that's something that the critics should also help to understand through the music our time. So I can tell you what happened to me. As you know, I wrote an opera about the judge Giovanni Falcone, who was killed by mafia. No? It was put in scene many times, and last year it was the 30th anniversary, and in Bozen they did a new production, the Haydn Foundation, and so during the time of the rehearsals to create the new production, I met many students. There were organized meetings, conference, and so on. And I met students, young students, that were not born at that time in 1992 when it was the killing, the massacre. And they wrote about Giovanni Falcone, they wrote about this person, this blessure, the still open blessure in our society. And I realized that they knew this very important figure, this man, through a contemporary opera, through a musical theater opera. And this was for me an incredible experience. So I said, really, it's still meaningful to create, to do opera that are connected with our history and our time's history, that can give an instrument, a way to the young generation to understand their condition through a contemporary piece of music theater. And this was for me an important thing. I never lived such an experience. Kind of really is not anymore intolleranza or by Nono, or it's another. It's to be part of our time, changing the sense of our time. So this was for me touching experience. Yeah.
Could just add.
Philippe Bonhoeffer.
Thank you very much. Does it work? Yes. I listened with a lot of interest and wondered about kind of a rather fundamental topic. Is it really 5 big institutions who are represented here to provide really every service for the young musician and young artist? Because I really don't think so. Because I think mentorship, wherever it is, needs to come from, maybe from the institution, but has to come from outside just as well. People should not form themselves in a single institution. I mean, they must have the opportunity to go to different places and so on. And therefore, I think if one looks at these kind of more individual approaches to musicians and artists, it might be actually better to leave them alone and really not provide that, so that they look for such things elsewhere. I believe that, I am involved in a science and music project here in the hills of Tuscany, where we do science and music and so on. We have, for example, a concert hall, which is really small. And this is wonderful because musicians can play there, and there are not many people listening. So they can experiment, they can play something which is not fully prepared. musicians who are mainstream musicians can try to do a Baroque performance just to try. And I think, I mean, we had even the Nozze di Figaro recently, we had so many more musicians than we could have had public because there's just no room for it. And I mean, and also these kind of individual courses, for example, you looked at how to finance them. It's complicated for, I mean, for the institutions to justify that. We had, for example, Heinrich Schiff, who gave some money to a couple of students and told them, make a festival in Monte Castelli. And they did, and they learned from that how to invite people, how to do things, and so on. And I actually, quite different from kind of the view from the Royal College, think it would be the nicest thing somehow if people could make music and make their art completely independently of financial considerations for a while. I mean, obviously, I think it's good that an institution provides the help that they learn how to move around on Instagram or whatnot. But I think it's really they have to find their identity by doing things which are not tied to money. And if one has the opportunity, like what Heinrich at the time provided, or with in other occasions, I think it would really be interesting if large institutions do some things very clearly and also clearly state that they don't do others. And then people look for this elsewhere. I just wonder whether there are comments to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm sorry if I've given the wrong impression about the range of things that we either do, and not only the Royal College of Music, but many other institutions. We aim to encourage students to participate in a whole range of different activities and opportunities for collaboration, but equally much we encourage them to set up their own things. And among the things we're probably most delighted to see, it sits, I suppose, inside the comment I was making about entrepreneurial students, is when students end up setting up arrangements of this kind for themselves. The Sacconi String Quartet, for example, set up their own festival, which is now running. They did that without any financial support, I suppose with a bit of encouragement, but with no direction as far as we were concerned. We just hoped the experience that they might want to build on. I've similarly just heard that another student of ours has set up an arrangement in Greece where he invites fellow players who were students alongside him and others who want to come to take part in something very similar to what you were talking about with your science and music festival. So I wouldn't want you to think there was any one way or indeed any one type of collaboration that we would either be advocating or encouraging students to pursue. That's partly why I said that I think there need to be a whole range of opportunities of this kind that do, among other things, exactly what you're saying.
Bene. Ci sono, ecco, grazie
Yes.
Stefan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not have a question, but maybe a quick comment, because Janet was repeatedly quoting what I said this morning, and which might be partly also an answer to your question. I think what we realize, or what I realize today, is that there are really many actors in the field, and the higher music education institution is one of them. The festival is another one. Research is the third one. And I would even call the community of young, ambitious artists is, for me, another factor in the big game, and there might be even more. And what happens at the moment is that they all realize that they face the same problems, but they did not yet start really to talk to each other about that. And I was very happy to hear from both Pierre Audi and Michael Haefliger that you're mentioning, so to say, going beyond what we are used to in terms of audiences, for example. The migration is certainly something which will have a bigger impact, as we can imagine at the moment, and going beyond the borders of the old Western world is another issue. And I think we all face these problems, and we face also the fact that we have to deal with institutions, with structures, and that's true for the higher music education institutions, as well as for the concert life and for the festivals that emerged before the background, or emerged in a world which was different as is now, and it will even change more. And that means also that all those institutions, they made or emerged for serving a certain purpose, but the purpose has changed. So we are about adapting to the new world, but I think, and that's, I see it very positively, that everyone is realizing that. But what is still only in the beginning is really to talk to each other about the joint problem we have.
Thank you, thank you. I think Stefan said a very interesting thing when I say it's a different field, and what is our challenge, really, is to create these connections between these fields, so learning, festival, production, diffusion. Another, for example, aspect we didn't talk about that we are pushing a lot is what happened after the academy. So academy, yeah, these guys, these students come to Siena, and someone is also coming to Siena, then go to Lucerne or to Mozarteum. So we are really happy now to create this connection in any possible way, to support this connection, but also what they do after. So this is something that is for us very important, and we are supporting a lot them. Yeah. So we are creating a network of opportunities in all over the world, worldwide, to do concerts, to go in foreign countries, to make concerts abroad, which is also part of a strategy. So all this should be connected by a strategy at the end. This is the most important thing that can create a unique form of, really a unique form of organization of our activity, creating these connections where outside are all separate fields. This is. Other questions? Yes.
Buonasera, sono Luciano e sono un giovanissimo studente della facoltà di musicologia dell'Università La Sapienza, e ringrazio tutti voi per le suggestioni, per gli spunti che sono stati forniti in questa serata, e mi fa piacere dare un piccolo contributo da giovanissimo che è stato più volte indirettamente chiamato in causa, proprio perché si è parlato di generare futuro, e quindi mi sono sentito tirato in causa indirettamente, appunto proprio perché ho 24 anni e mi fa piacere poter contribuire con un intervento. Ecco, la cosa che mi trovo spesso a constatare nel momento in cui entro in una sala da concerto oggigiorno è vedere miei colleghi, quindi della facoltà di musicologia, colleghi di conservatorio, troppo poco spesso amici, coetanei, che non sanno forse che cosa significa poter apprezzare qualche cosa che è stato scritto 200, 300, 100 anni o l'altro ieri. Ecco, questa è una riflessione che mi trovo spesso a fare per interrogarmi sulle strategie comunicative che forse dovremmo cercare di mettere in atto. Nel mio piccolissimo mi trovo a gestire una piccola realtà orchestrale che abbiamo creato autonomamente, e più spesso mi sono trovato a domandarmi come si può far sì che la babele di linguaggi che oggi noi fruiamo quotidianamente, lo abbiamo sentito in questi in questo giorno, ieri e oggi, come possiamo far sì che questa pluralità di linguaggi possa trovare una sintesi, trovare uno spazio condiviso per far avvicinare il più possibile più persone ad una sala da concerto. Ecco, io credo che forse la sfida per generare futuro, ed è una frase che ho sentito molto spesso anche il 7 luglio passato, proprio in questa sala, quando si parlava di Berio, della possibilità di far esistere un'unica musica. Ecco, la contaminazione, io credo che questo sia il fulcro, il punto da tenere in considerazione, e da giovane mi sento di dire con la massima umiltà che più volte, quando abbiamo cercato con i miei colleghi di proporre delle iniziative che vedessero le contaminazioni appunto linguistiche al centro della proposta, molto spesso ho visto degli sguardi un po' titubanti, delle bocche un po' storte. Ecco, forse è arrivato il momento di andare oltre, rompere un pochino i limiti. Non vorrei essere retorico, ma credo che sia piuttosto importante. Ecco, mi faceva piacere portare questo punto di vista. Vi ringrazio.
Grazie a te, è un tema molto interessante. Michael, communication for Lucerne? Communication in Lucerne Festival? What is the space that you give to communication?
Communication is endless. It's the most difficult thing.
Is the most difficult.
The minute you think you have advanced, you realize you're behind. I think that also, facing iPhone and the social media, I have my own platform on the social media. I'm do coaching once a month or so, and but you never end, and you have to also see where is your own border or where is your integrity about especially social media. But I think what you mentioned is something, how can we create maybe a platform, or how can we create a concert type where different styles have more opportunities to grow? And I think that's very interesting. I think we still very much rely upon older models. I'm the first one to do so. In traditional concert setups, I just 2 days ago I heard a performance by the Baltic Sea Orchestra. It wasn't my style. It was to some degree, I liked it, I didn't like it, but there was one interesting thing. They actually created a new piece. They made a composition consisting of older pieces. I mean, all different styles. There was Tchaikovsky, there was the Greek piano concerto, there was Pärt, there was, I don't know, there were some others, I forgot which ones, and they made one unity out of it in a sophisticated and show type performance style. To me, of course, it was a challenge, but there were a lot of young people. It was quite popular. It was, at least we have to think about all the different setups we can create, and I think we need more stages. Before we go out on such a professional stage like in Lucerne, we need to create smaller stages where we try out. There needs to be more trial and error. Maybe here the universities can come in. And actually now I think in Los Angeles, the Colburn School is just about to build a new, really sophisticated multimedia performance hall. These are the kind of places where in the future, younger people and older people together can work on and then take it into the big hall, try it out, because sometimes the pressure on ticket sales, and especially in the US or at Lucerne Festival, is so tough. We have to have the income, and we cannot take the risks we sometimes would love to do, and so just become smart about it and smarter, and don't think always about the big performance to be the big and everybody works for that. No, it starts already in a more educational environment that can take place in the universities, even in the, in music schools and to build the kind of setup, to build the kind of vision for it. I mean, I don't have the complete answer, but I think what you said is very interesting, to get platforms where a unity can take place.
Great. You said very important things. The idea that communication is also question of space, and also a question of where, and create, not only communicate in the way of, yeah, we know, no? But also create a space for communication that is to combine with communication. Pierre, communication for you, for X?
Well, I mean, a festival is a program which you hope people will investigate and choose, like a buffet with different things, and they come to this and they come to that. They can't come to everything, but that's what a festival is.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open buffet, and you have a lot of different meals there, and you have different flavors and different colors and different types of food. You know, when a large part of my career, including Holland, I never had a marketing budget, because when I joined Amsterdam, the opera house was always full, because when the new building was open, people came a lot and it was sold out. So we never, for 15 years, I didn't have a marketing department. I didn't spend 1 guilder on marketing. A guilder, it was before the euro. So, and of course at the Almeida, I had no money. I couldn't put an advertisement. I couldn't do anything. So for a large part of my career, I did no publicity for anything. I was hoping that what I would put on was interesting to some people and they would come. Now it's a different story. We have to communicate, and this is difficult because we don't really know how effective it is. And we have such pressures on the box office with expensive tickets, less expensive tickets. We need to be showed that we are trying to invite people to come who can afford the tickets, but we cannot give up the expensive tickets because they are essential to our economic model. So this question of marketing is very complicated, and there is no real solution to it. And I don't think the internet is necessarily the golden solution. I think it's a flow of information, you know, that a buzz that can bring, you know, waves of audience that speak, communicate, and bring new audiences. It's very primitive still, but in the arts, unfortunately, we are not rich enough to be able to use sophisticated marketing tools to change everything. And a lot of institutions, for instance, like Salzburg, they are relying on their success. Lucerne also, they have their public. They are without the possibility of hoping that their public is coming every year. These institutions would not exist. The X is more fragile because we only have 30% subsidy, and everything else has to come from box office, co-productions, and private money. So it's a very, very tough model, but it's very worrying for the future. And I think that the economic models of festivals are going to become more and more complex with time. And I think that if universities and institutes of education can develop programming flavors, you know, things like this festival, this is so important, I think, because from this other things can grow, you know. And of course economically it's much cheaper. But you know, I did 18 hours of the opera Licht from Stockhausen with 500 students who spent 4 years learning the music by heart. So, but we could never have done that if it had been professional musicians. It would have cost too much money. So to mix special projects, including high-level festival productions with educational commitment, this is an example of one, could be an interesting way to help us forward, you know. But it requires a lot of organization, it requires a lot of commitment from individuals to come together, from universities, from festivals, from project management is very, very complex. To keep the costs down and to make the impossible projects happen, you know, that's so it's an open question. I don't know the answer, but it's tricky.
Yeah, it's much more connected than it's not communication here and production there. There is the strategy. The strategy is the key.
Just a little bit on the communication front, and not in the large-scale festival, but I was just thinking of some of the new, young, small ensembles that I know that are busy trying to establish opportunities for themselves. They use social media in quite different ways, both to promote what they're doing and indeed often to present what we might traditionally call program notes, but sometimes notes that actually accompany the performance, not read beforehand or afterwards, but actually as one goes along. And many of them make sure when they are actually in the performance location, wherever they've chosen, even in the small sorts of locations Michael was talking about, they speak directly to their audience during and after.
Thank you very much. It's not an endless time. We have to close, so I would like to thank a lot Elisabeth Ritterman, Pierre Audi, Elisabeth Gutjahr, Michael Haefliger. Vielen Dank. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. And it was a marvelous opportunity to meet us here today. Thank you very much. Stefano, for the closing.
So thank you very much. I just invite now, please, to change the desk, and and so I invite Susanna Pasticci here to just to sum up. Now we pass to I thank Michela Angiolini and Manuela Bongiovanni for the translation. Now I switch to Italian, and quindi invito la professoressa Susanna Pasticci, la presidente, la direttrice della rivista Chigiana Musicological Studies, perché appunto questo è un convegno e quindi avevamo fatto la promessa di aprire lo spazio di discussione su quello che avevamo lasciato aperto questa mattina. Quindi vi ringrazio, vi chiedo di cambiare lo spazio. Susanna. No, vabbè, non c'entra niente. No, non c'entra niente.
No, lascia che vuoi, che problema c'è? Io sto qua, posso rubare? Non importa, dai,
Vabbè. Vai, parla, usa quel microfono.
Troppo. Secondo me.
Bene, allora, come dicevamo, appunto facciamo il punto della situazione, più o meno le linee della nostra lunga conversazione ormai sono emerse chiaramente, quindi dal punto di vista mio, del responsabile scientifico di questa iniziativa, è assolutamente soddisfacente, perché mi sembra che le cose progettate stiano andando comunque in una direzione, quindi anche nonostante la differenza di approcci, la differenza di interessi e di voci che stanno partecipando a questa che è una vera conferenza di fatto, non è semplicemente un convegno. Di solito si sbaglia ad utilizzare la parola conferenza al posto di convegno, in questo caso conference può essere tradotto con conferenza. Quindi volevo invitare innanzitutto quelli che avevano delle domande da rivolgere anche a coloro che fra i relatori di stamattina hanno parlato. So che c'era appunto il professor Burchi che voleva dire qualcosa, che appunto invito adesso a dire, e poi se c'era qualcuno anche che voleva ribattere, abbiamo ancora Enrico Girardi qui con noi, e quindi insomma se c'è la possibilità di parlare, volentieri, eccoci qua. Quindi portiamo il microfono al professor Burchi.
Lei dice che funziona?
Sì, basta accenderlo, è spento, così è acceso.
Grazie.
Ma se no venga.
Mi metto a sedere.
Sì,
allora le rubo un po'.
Vieni,
No, io mi metto
Susanna, vieni.
a destra del padre.
Buonasera di nuovo. Mi ricollego a ciò che è stato detto stamani nella relazione del professor Binai, e anche della problematica dell'ascolto moderno, che prevede un impegno, non un impegno, il consumatore invece l'ascoltatore, per dire un'esperienza personale. Il professor Binai ha detto che è stato allievo di Massimo Mila, che quando studiavo io era il massimo, un riferimento della musicologia, e il professor Binai ha detto che il professor Massimo Mila era un crociano e quindi guardava soprattutto all'estetica, anche non solo del brano ma anche del tipo di esecuzione, per cui la critica sua, e ovviamente durante l'insegnamento a questo invitava, di osservare questi parametri che sono stati ampiamente superati. Tuttavia io ho studiato a Firenze con un professore che è stato anche direttore dell'Accademia Musicale Chigiana, direttore artistico, si chiamava Mario Fabbri, purtroppo è scomparso abbastanza giovane. Io ho studiato negli anni 60, nei turbolenti anni 60, nella facoltà di lettere dell'Università di Firenze, nella sala pur frequentatissima di storia della musica, con il professor Fabbri laggiù in cattedra, lontanissimo, eravamo più di 100, osservando anche accuratamente, non c'era un altoparlante. Osservando più attentamente, non c'era un giradischi, non c'era nulla. Allora nessun ascolto è stato fatto durante un anno intero accademico. Non è stato ascoltato almeno un brano musicale. Il professor Fabbri parlava, discuteva, descriveva, ma non faceva ascoltare il pezzo di cui parlava. La qualcosa mi ha sorpreso molto, non solo me. Ma non veniva detto niente su questo argomento. Solo una volta, per scrupolo, disse: se poi le volete ascoltare, lasciando così, non so io, che facciamo se lo vogliamo, cioè ve l'ascoltate da voi e basta. L'unica volta in cui si sentì in musica, fu un evento storico, tutto a aspettare, fu chiamato il bidello, esisteva ancora bidello. Aprì un mobiletto laterale di metallo, tirò fuori un registratore a nastro integrato, un affarino così, con un nastrino, e il professor Fabbri ci fece ascoltare La Passione di Francesco Corteccia. Quindi l'unico suono che sentimmo lì fu La Passione di Francesco Corteccia, che era una passione anche del professor Fabbri, il quale ammirava questo musicista della Firenze rinascimentale, che era poi il periodo che lui stesso studiava e amava di più. Quindi è curioso questo, tanto più che il professor Fabbri all'Accademia Chigiana metteva in scena opere, organizzava concerti, e quindi la musica lui la ascoltava. Però questa scissione fra storia della musica ed esecuzione musicale è testimoniata da questa assenza completa di ascolti. Sorprende che qualche propaggine di questa, chiamiamola mentalità, o meglio di quest'idea che della musica si parla ma non occorre ascoltarla, l'ho trovata anche, ma vogliamo dire un 15 anni fa, a un esame all'università. Una signorina voleva parlare di un certo autore e cominciò a parlare, ma vedevo che era un po' incerta. Gli dissi, ma l'ha ascoltato? Si doveva anche ascoltare? Quindi questa transizione ai giorni nostri è stata epocale. Ora la musica si può ascoltare ovunque, comunque, però anche programmaticamente isolare la musicologia dall'ascolto musicale vero e proprio era qualcosa che faceva soffrire lo studente dell'epoca. Quindi io poi nel mio piccolo ho cercato sempre di far ascoltare, stavo zitto e facevo ascoltare, era ottimo come metodologia. E questo volevo io testimoniare.
Grazie. Allora, no, rimanga qui. Ora, non so se è ancora con noi Francesco Lora, che so che sarebbe, non lo so, però Francesco Lora ieri ha fatto un intervento proprio su Mario Fabbri, su quel periodo lì e sul rapporto, non dico con Corteccia, ma con un po' di musica antica, proprio dibattendo su un problema che magari sarebbe stato bello discutere ancora con lui adesso, ma appunto vorrei lasciare invece spazio ad altri interventi, so che c'era qualcuno che voleva discutere di qualcosa, delle linee che abbiamo un po' disegnato nella nostra conversazione di questi giorno e mezzo.
Il problema è che forse abbiamo fatto anche un po' tardi, insomma, nel senso che appunto non abbiamo fatto la pausa e questo un pochino si sente, però diciamo che spesso, quasi sempre ai convegni, no? Cioè è talmente tutto così bello, pieno di stimoli, di idee, di discorsi, che poi comunque si continua a parlare anche dopo, no? Anche per strada, magari andando al concerto, stasera chi ci andrà, o anche domani. Certo, le tematiche affrontate sono molto molto ampie, molto complesse: formazione, ricerca e produzione. Qui sono rimasti soprattutto giovani. Nella tavola rotonda di oggi il maestro Nicola Sani diceva che l'obiettivo della Chigiana, il compito della Chigiana è dare ai giovani la possibilità di diventare protagonisti della scena musicale, e la tavola rotonda di oggi, dove abbiamo appunto visto ospiti molto molto importanti che oggi probabilmente hanno messo le basi anche per una progettualità futura e per creare dei ponti, creare delle azioni comuni. Non so se qualcuno appunto nelle giornate di ieri e di oggi vi posso così per stimolarvi, capisco che siamo tutti stanchi, però rileggere i titoli delle sezioni, chi ha bisogno della musica d'arte. Ieri è stato veramente un momento importante, ci ha ricordato che la musica è libertà e che la musica, come dire, non è scontata, perché ci sono situazioni, contesti, come abbiamo visto ieri, no? C'era un maestro che veniva dall'Afghanistan e ci spiegava, sì, ci spiegava che appunto la musica è proibita. Lui adesso dove stava? A Melbourne, in Australia, era. Quindi, insomma, come dire, ci ha messo in contatto con altre realtà, abbiamo parlato anche di questioni di generi, l'orchestra femminile, le questioni di generi sono molto, molto importanti, è un fatto culturale. Poco fa qualcuno ha detto che le cose che sono successe in questi giorni sono dovute al fatto che ci sono delle persone pazze. No, signori, non è un fatto di pazzia, è un problema culturale serio e anche la musica se ne deve occupare. Non volevo, scusate, non volevo, però cioè non era, come dire, intenzione, però ecco, un'altra cosa, adesso io, come dire, mi sono presa degli appunti, lo faccio per rompere il ghiaccio, se c'è qualcuno che vuole dire qualcosa mi fermo istantaneamente. Altra cosa, Stefan Ghissa oggi ha parlato dei progetti europei, no? E quello è un tema importante. Ci ha parlato di un progetto in cui la musica è valorizzata come fattore di inclusione sociale, ok? Io sono molto contenta per questo progetto che è veramente molto bello. Io ogni tanto faccio, diciamo, delle ricerche su Horizon per vedere, ma la musica, la comunità europea, cioè ci sono dei progetti, viene finanziata, viene valorizzata. Ecco, e non mi stupisce appunto di questo, uno di questi progetti è quello di cui ci ha parlato il professore stamattina, inclusione sociale, però guardate, provateci anche voi, soprattutto giovani, a digitare music su Horizon e vedrete che le cose che vi vengono fuori sono pochissime e sono legate o sempre a qualcos'altro. Vi faccio un esempio, dove potete trovare la parola musica sono dei progetti sulle dinamiche di gruppo, team building, team working. Allora la musica, l'idea delle persone che suonano insieme, è un prototipo di dinamiche di lavoro di gruppo, ok? Oppure un altro progetto, leadership, si invitano dei direttori di orchestra a istruire dei futuri manager per far sapere come si dirige un gruppo che va bene d'accordo. Sono cose bellissime, però io ogni volta che faccio questo esercizio su Horizon poi mi chiedo, ma la musica, in quanto musica, dov'è? No? Perché forse se la musica è un elemento centrale nella cittadinanza europea, nell'identità europea, allora forse noi dovremmo non solo finanziare dei progetti dove la musica, diciamo, è l'emblema di qualcos'altro, ma la musica in quanto musica viene finanziata. Ovviamente ci sono anche questi progetti, mi riferisco a Creative Europe, che però non sono dei progetti, diciamo, che vanno a incidere sulle realtà locali, creano delle reti, come oggi abbiamo cercato di fare qui, delle reti di collaborazione tra istituzioni. Però il problema vero della musica è che mancano i finanziamenti primari, quelli che le istituzioni le tengono in piedi, purtroppo. Perché? Perché il problema è molto complesso, no? Per questo il convegno mette insieme formazione, ricerca e produzione, perché la Chigiana è, lo stiamo vedendo in questi giorni, uno straordinaria fucina di formazione, come le istituzioni rappresentate su questo tavolo prima. Ma dopo che cosa succede? No? La ricerca che cosa riguarda? Anche la ricerca di nuovi modi di comunicare la musica, nuovi spazi, nuove modalità di gestione del tempo, come ci diceva stamattina Alessandro Tommasi, no? c'è un libro molto bello che è legato alla perché abbiamo bisogno della musica classica di Lawrence Kramer, che dice la musica classica è difficile perché richiede concentrazione e tempo, ma non è solo questo, cioè lui arriva a dire di più, la musica ci ha insegnato ad ascoltare il tempo, ad ascoltarti, a vivere in una dimensione del tempo dinamica, relazionale. Cioè, come noi, quando la nostra musica, la musica d'arte, la musica classica, ascoltiamo con concentrazione, no? Veramente viviamo una dimensione del tempo altro. Ecco, questo voleva dire oggi Alessandro, questo giovane giornalista, no? Che c'era stamattina, diceva guardate che è il tempo la chiave di tutto. E quindi insomma, come dire, con un pubblico così giovane per noi era importante mettere sul tappeto queste tematiche, magari sentire anche voi se avete degli input, delle reazioni. Se no andiamo a prendere un gelato.
Sì, aggiungo soltanto alcuni brevissimi appunti a questo punto e prendiamo il gelato. No, volevo dire, abbiamo fatto questo convegno, ora domani lo dirò meglio, magari in conclusione, però abbiamo fatto questo convegno in questo modo perché era difficile rispetto alle altre occasioni dei convegni della rivista Chigiana tentare di raccogliere degli studiosi che si interessassero a questo argomento. Cioè, una cosa è occuparsi del problema della musica e i media, una cosa è occuparsi della musica e il potere nell'Ottocento, una cosa, e quindi sono argomenti, o di Pizzetti, insomma sono argomenti che comunque richiamano gruppi di studiosi abbastanza trasversali, non solo internazionali e così via. Fare qualcosa sulla Chigiana non era così facile, perché sempre ci raccontiamo che la Chigiana è famosa, si sa, sono 100 anni di lavoro con buona parte della storia della musica occidentale, però di fatto non è un argomento di studio e quindi diciamo bisognava virare verso altre cose. E la cosa interessante è che attraverso la Chigiana, per quanto può essere un bilancio parziale fino ad adesso, abbiamo imparato anche grazie alle ricerche, agli interventi, innanzitutto grazie a Domenico Sparaco che ci ha fatto un attimo mettere l'attenzione sul fatto che i musicisti hanno dei corpi e che i corpi dei musicisti sono corpi sociali che vengono determinati dall'ambiente, dalle relazioni che si costruiscono intorno al fare musica. E questo è importante, importantissimo, grazie. Abbiamo imparato dalla relazione di Manica Coppola che l'eredità è anche nel fare, non è soltanto nel dare qualcosa a chi viene, ma è nel fare insieme, di generazione in generazione, una cosa che attraverso il tempo si trasforma. Quella è l'eredità, non è rifare le cose come si facevano una volta. E per quanto riguarda invece gli interventi di ieri pomeriggio, anche per dare giusto un po' di pepe al racconto del professor Burchi, si parlava di Mario Fabbri, si parlava dei compositori, di Respighi, di Frazzi, Mortari, tutti coloro che hanno partecipato alla Vivaldi Renaissance, alla riscoperta della musica del passato, del Settecento fondamentalmente, ma non solo, anche un po' prima. E io l'avevo accennato all'inizio e lo ripeto adesso, bisogna pensare che a quell'epoca, come giustamente faceva ricordare anche il professor Burchi, non c'erano i dischi di gente che aveva già suonato quella musica, non c'erano libri che parlavano di come interpretare quella musica, o meglio c'erano ma erano pochi, insomma bisognava fare tutta una ricerca sui trattati, insomma non era proprio argomento di comune discussione. C'erano le scuole di interpretazione che erano tutte ottocentesche, per cui se uno suonava Bach lo suonava come gli veniva, e noi avevamo qui Wanda Landowska che in contatto medianico si faceva dire da Bach come doveva suonare il clavicembalo, che poi oggi sappiamo che è lo stesso della famiglia Adams, quindi insomma è molto interessante questa cosa. Quindi anche rispetto agli interventi di ieri, che erano tutti quanti molto interessanti, bisogna ricordare che c'è una responsabilità che non è soltanto quella del musicologo, ma è quella dell'esecutore, perché una volta che abbiamo scoperto, non dico la vera nota, ma la giusta nota sulla partitura, poi c'è qualcuno che decide come quella nota suona. Se il filologo deve capire se è un fa diesis o un sol bemolle, a un certo punto c'è qualcuno che quel suono lo deve fare, ed è lo stesso per chi lo ascolta. Quindi questo,
intonato.
questo è, vabbè, lasciamo stare l'intonazione. E questo è importante, quindi ecco perché era importante discutere dell'invenzione del suono del passato, perché quello che è stato fatto, che ha aperto la strada a tutto quello che noi abbiamo oggi, è stato proprio inventare un suono, e che viene continuato ad inventare. Se Monteverdi scendesse adesso qui, ci prenderebbe per pazzi, dice: ma che state suonando? Questo è Pupo. Invece no, per noi è Monteverdi. L'ultima cosa è il rapporto fra, siccome sono io che ci ho pestato un po' il piede sopra, questo rapporto fra intrattenimento e operazione culturale, e contaminazione, serietà e impegno. Volevo soltanto sottolineare che quando faccio questa differenza fra intrattenimento e operazione culturale, sto parlando di tempo, sto parlando di valore del tempo e di modo in cui noi diamo valore al tempo. Se diamo un valore di scambio al tempo, stiamo facendo intrattenimento. Se costruiamo insieme il senso del tempo, stiamo facendo cultura. Questa è l'unica differenza. Non sto parlando di generi, non sto parlando di serietà, tristezza o allegria, non sto parlando di qualcosa che si fa in un gruppo di amici o fra estranei, sto parlando di una semplice attività che penso che tutti quanti, più o meno consciamente o inconsciamente, facciamo. Non serve essere musicologi per pensare la musica come un insieme di suoni relati nel tempo. E questo è quello che dobbiamo fare quando ascoltiamo: ascoltare dei suoni che si mettono insieme nel tempo, tracciare delle linee immaginarie che stabiliscono le tensioni fra di loro, immergerci in queste tensioni e far sì che quel tempo sia il nostro tempo, sia il tempo della nostra vita che per un solo istante si intreccia a questa rete di tempi. E così finalmente possiamo fare cultura e non intrattenimento. Questo ascolto non è l'ascolto distratto, non è l'ascolto impegnato, è quello che io personalmente chiamo l'ascolto libero. Cultura e libertà, e musica culturale e libertà. Dici il tuo nome, accendi il microfono.
Così forse sì? Ok. Sono Giulia e sono una studentessa della facoltà di musicologia a Roma. E in qualche modo colpito, ecco, il discorso che abbiamo affrontato in questi giorni sull'ascolto e sul tempo appunto speso ad ascoltare, e riflettevo anche sul valore che questo può assumere diciamo, all'interno del sociale, e di come affrontiamo in qualche modo anche i rapporti che esistono all'interno di diciamo di un gruppo, ecco, nel senso che credo che probabilmente un'educazione all'ascolto possa in qualche modo diventare anche una educazione ed un esercizio all'accettazione dell'altro in qualche misura, no? E quindi che in tal senso questo possa essere un modo per poter fondare in qualche modo appunto l'intera società in cui appunto siamo immersi. E invece in merito al discorso che abbiamo affrontato penso ieri, sulla filologia e sulla ricerca della verità all'interno della storia della musica, mi sono chiesta, poiché si parlava anche della storia come in qualche modo una narrazione, un racconto, e quindi si diceva che non è possibile la verità all'interno di un racconto. Mi chiedo se poi questa mancanza del vero all'interno di ciò di cui in qualche modo si discute non possa poi portare ad una mancata identificazione di dei principi e dei valori che possano in qualche modo guidare anche appunto gli artisti, o comunque chi fa in qualche modo le veci del portavoce culturale, ecco, all'interno della società. Questo.
Penso di dover rispondere io, perché questa cosa l'ho detta io ieri. Allora guarda, è molto bello quello che hai detto sull'ascolto, no? Perché c'è una dimensione etica molto forte nel far musica, nel condividere la musica e nel appunto anche nelle dinamiche del suonare insieme, no? È bello fare musica da camera perché si crea appunto questa relazione tra persone che si ascoltano, che devono ascoltarsi e devono collaborarsi per realizzare un obiettivo comune. Quindi grazie di aver fatto questa riflessione. Per quanto riguarda la storia della musica, io non volevo dire che la storia della musica si basa su dati falsi, volevo semplicemente dire che non esiste una storia che può avere la pretesa di essere più vera di un'altra, ok? Noi dobbiamo essere persone oneste, però quando costruiamo una storia scegliamo le nostre fonti, nel senso che come dire, i fatti del passato sono tanti, ok? Allora noi non possiamo raccontarli tutti, ne scegliamo alcuni. Quelli che scegliamo dobbiamo essere eticamente responsabili, accertare che siano veri e sulla base di quelli costruiamo una narrazione, ma le narrazioni possibili sono tante, ok? Anche se magari appunto uno fa riferimento a una sola storia della musica, in realtà pensa per esempio alla storia della musica del Novecento, no? Nella prima parte del secolo, stamattina si parlava di Adorno, si diceva che c'era la restaurazione che era Stravinsky, che erano classico, invece il progresso che era Schoenberg. Questo andava bene nel 1949, oggi probabilmente pensiamo esattamente il contrario, tante persone hanno una concezione molto diversa. Allora c'è qualcosa di vero o di falso? I fatti sono sempre quelli, ma il nostro modo di leggere, di sceglierli e di costruire il percorso, cioè l'intreccio, cambia. Però ecco, in questo senso volevo dire, quindi come dire, le visioni cambiano nel tempo, ma assolutamente l'etica professionale non deve essere mai messa in discussione. Ieri il professor Burchi c'è stata questa relazione su Mario Fabbri, che insomma ci ha messo un po' così in difficoltà, perché appunto lei ci ha raccontato un altro aspetto di questa complessa personalità che io devo dire a questo punto sono molto curiosa di approfondire, perché sicuramente ha lasciato un segno nella Chigiana, però appunto come dire, è stata ventilata l'ipotesi che Mario Fabbri abbia costruito una narrazione storiografica legata ad alcuni autori, insomma alcuni scritti che ha fatto, inventandosi dei documenti, ok? E quindi insomma, come dire, è un'ipotesi che lui l'abbia inventata, nel senso che i documenti non si trovano più e quindi può darsi che si siano persi o può darsi che lui l'abbia inventato, cioè come dire, in questo senso volevo invitare a relativizzare, perché
sì, a me, scusami Susanna, allora voglio mettere, ora torna fuori il professore, scusate se divento professore per 5 secondi, ma una cosa mi preme dire: la verità non è un problema dello storico, non è un problema della storia, la verità è un problema del giudice e dell'epistemologo. La verità dello storico è parziale, è un'ipotesi di lavoro che può essere rivista ogni momento. La verità del giudice è una verità negoziale che ha a che fare col rapporto fra una fattispecie e un fatto che viene in qualche modo raccontato, perché stiamo parlando di racconto, e quindi è accertato nel momento in cui rientra in una fattispecie. La verità dell'epistemologo è l'unica vera esistente e ha a che fare con un valore logico. Sulla base di condizioni logiche una cosa è vera o è falsa. Dunque, la storia non è fatta, o meglio la musica e tutte le forme di espressione culturale umana non sono dei fatti empirici, non possono essere ridotti alla dimensione di fatto empirico. Il fatto empirico di solito viene ricostruito dalla storia necessariamente come racconto. Un racconto viene istituzionalizzato, ma quello che noi sappiamo sono tutti i racconti che si intrecciano fra di loro, sono le storie della musica che fanno sì che quella musica esista nella memoria delle persone, altrimenti quella musica non c'è, rimane quel segno con un diesis o un bemolle sulle 5 righe scritto lì. Quindi se vogliamo fare una storia della musica dobbiamo considerarla anche come fatto culturale, come le conseguenze, e la battuta che mi viene è questa: vogliamo dimenticare l'adagio di Albinoni per le conseguenze che ha avuto nella nostra cultura contemporanea, o semplicemente ci basta dire che è un falso scritto da Remo Giazzotto?
È uno dei pezzi che io suonavo da piccola, che ci sono cresciuta, probabilmente tutti voi, quindi sappiamo che è un falso e ce lo teniamo. Ci sono... Luigi, prego. No, ti
Abbiamo esattamente 5 minuti.
5 minuti, ok, si sente bene. Volevo fare una domanda inerente alla conversazione che è stata fatta stamattina sulla critica e sulla, diciamo, su quello che riguardava il rapporto tra l'ideologia e invece quel piacere quasi edonistico di cui si parlava con il professor Vinay stamattina. E dato che negli anni 70 c'era questa tendenza un po' ideologica, magari di impegno politico nei confronti di determinate interpretazioni musicali, mentre invece oggi magari si pensa più al piacere di godere di una musica, vorrei sapere se effettivamente, secondo voi, quali siano le prospettive future, se effettivamente un ritorno all'impegno politico della critica, in quanto, come diceva il professor Girardi, effettivamente c'è una mancanza di critica attualmente, possa riportare diciamo una maggiore consapevolezza anche a livello dell'impegno sociale che porta con sé la musica, per esempio nella programmazione dei festival o anche nel contenuto musicale stesso delle nuove composizioni contemporanee. Quindi come questo magari questo incarnarsi dell'impegno politico possa tornare nel futuro, a fianco anche magari al piacere edonistico di cui si era parlato stamattina, se quindi è possibile, se è benefico per la critica che si ritorni appunto ad avere un'idea un po' più politica di come si organizza la musica oggi.
Io riprenderei giusto le ultime parole di Janet Ritterman, che ha detto che il programma di sala parla prima, dopo e durante la musica. Il programma di sala è uno dei luoghi di esercizio, di fatto, della critica musicale, importante. Quando si fanno i programmi di sala, io personalmente indico ai ragazzi che, diciamo, seguo in qualche modo, è che un programma di sala deve dire innanzitutto perché dobbiamo ascoltare questa musica, perché la stiamo ascoltando questa sera, che cosa dobbiamo ascoltare di questa musica. Ecco, come dicevamo stamattina, prima c'era Adorno e allora c'è stato qualcuno che ha detto, beh, però mi farei anche dire se mi piace o no, no? E quindi il senso del piacere poi lo vogliamo leggere con l'avvento delle teorie psicanalitiche negli anni 70, i movimenti politici, la liberazione sessuale, quello che si vuole, no? Che ci ha dato la possibilità di reagire a questo dogma adorniano in qualche modo, che poi è stato anche mal interpretato in realtà. Abbiamo già fatto anche un convegno su Adorno, quindi è stato fatto un po', è diventato un po' troppo dogma come tutte quante le forme di radicalismo, da quelli che l'hanno interpretato e non da quello che Adorno ha scritto. Ma appunto, ora che invece mi piace è diventato mi piace sul social network, il cuoricino, una cosa del genere, allora sì, forse c'è bisogno di tornare. Ma come si torna? Come diceva Girardi, che ora mi dispiace che se n'è andato, ma la situazione è questa. Abbiamo un sistema bloccato dove c'è qualcosa che fa successo e non ci si chiede il perché. Allora forse il compito della critica è dire che certe cose forse non vale più la pena di ascoltarle, anche se ci va un sacco di gente, perché non è giusto. Perché non è giusto. Allora sì, questo è un altro valore, è un valore morale ed è un valore etico. Non è bene, non è giusto che delle cose che fanno successo vengano prese come delle cose giuste e buone. Il critico deve, forse, deve, non lo so, questo verbo è un po' troppo forte da un punto di vista filosofico, però il critico forse ha il compito di riuscire a entrare nel discorso sulla musica, tentando di far capire che cosa vale la pena di ascoltare e che cosa bisogna riconoscere che non è più il caso di ascoltare, perché è il male di quella musica, è il male del sapere sulla musica, è il male del sentire la musica. E quindi qui entra un ruolo politico del critico che è fondamentale, a cui oggi la critica, diciamo, sicuramente fa difficoltà perché non ha più grossi spazi per poterlo fare, ma forse non può abdicare.
Sempre porto testimonianze di un antico passato. Quando c'era la critica militante, litigi, lettere aperte, eccetera, quindi veniamo alla seconda metà degli anni 60, io sono un fiorentino e quindi frequentavo il teatro comunale dove era la sede dell'orchestra del Maggio Musicale, una orchestra notevole che ha dato molte soddisfazioni. Allora, un anno avvenne un episodio notevolissimo, insomma un evento, possiamo chiamarlo. Nel calendario apparve l'Orchestra Filarmonica di Leningrado, diretta da un direttore all'epoca mitico Yevgeny Mravinsky, uno che aveva diretto l'orchestra per decenni, un direttore formidabile che si presentò al pubblico fiorentino. Io, come altri miei amici, eravamo dei frequentatori assidui e vedemmo subito un pubblico diversissimo rispetto a quello solito. Arrivarono, diciamo, dei simpatizzanti, degli amici della Russia, dell'URSS, via all'epoca URSS, e quindi erano tutti pronti al trionfo. Effettivamente fu un concerto strepitoso. Il Mravinsky diresse due sinfonie di Tchaikovsky, quinta e sesta, quindi una cosa favolosa. E quindi nell'intervallo ho sentito questo commento fra due di questi ammiratori dell'URSS. Dice, che orchestra, certo è, come a dire, noi ce le sogniamo, orchestre così, però certo a fargli eseguire Tchaikovsky. Ecco, questo concetto è fondamentale, quindi Tchaikovsky era ostracizzato in quanto chiunque lo sentisse rimaneva colpito, però non si doveva dire che piaceva, era un borghese. Poi disse uno a un convegno di musicologia, poi gli piacevano gli alberghi di prima categoria, capirai. Quindi questa direi che si è molto frantumata questa compattezza di visione, no? Fra il bene e il male, il bello e il brutto. È un rivolo, una serie di rivoli che è più difficile scoprire, la cui direzione è difficile scoprire. Quando si ascoltava a quel tempo era più semplice, come per esempio ci siamo avvicinati a delle musiche molto difficili come Stockhausen, per esempio. Non so chi ha sentito Herbstmusik, musica d'autunno. Fu un evento in cui anche il compassato spettatore musicale dovette, insomma, perdere le staffe, per dire. Però c'era una reazione immediata, tant'è che uno disse, ora non sto a dire cosa succedeva, dice, io ho furia, ha bisogno d'aiuto? Perché quella era una lungagnata, spezzava dei rametti sul palcoscenico. Prima c'era una reazione, io ho visto qui alla Chigiana, per esempio, per tanti anni è stata una manifestazione che si chiamava Chigiana Novità, venivano presentati i pezzi nuovi, tutti avevano lo stesso identico numero di applausi, stessa intensità e stessa durata, non c'era, no, una reazione immediata. Ecco, grazie.
Erano scritti anche gli applausi nelle battute, probabilmente. No, io ringrazio Guido Burchi per essere qui, ringrazio per gli aneddoti che ci ha dato e faccio qui una richiesta ufficiale di organizzare una cosa in cui lui ci racconta tutti gli aneddoti che vuole, perché è stato veramente meraviglioso, grazie. Vi ricordo anche che il fondamentale libro di Guido Burchi e Catoni è stato ristampato da Chigiana di Siena, quindi non dite che non lo trovate, perché c'è in commercio e lui non ci guadagna niente, quindi insomma quindi non sto facendo pubblicità per l'autore, ma sto facendo pubblicità all'autore, quindi mi raccomando, compratelo.
Bellissimo.
Io vi ringrazio, chiudiamo qui e ci vediamo domani mattina alle 9:30 all'Archivio di Stato, che è Palazzo Piccolomini, sempre in via Banchi di Sotto, qui accanto. Grazie a tutti e buona serata.